1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Officers confirmed that agents have been involved in the shooting. Portland is not involved. 224 officers with information had been shot. Was calling and recording help. Over 6th Avenue and Spruceside officers. American Jones officers at the light. And some emergency All right, I'm ready.
And thanks for joining us here at 4. And we're starting a few minutes early because we've got breaking news this afternoon. City Council President Ilana Perdigini just confirmed that 2 people were shot by federal agents. We are still waiting to confirm the exact details.
Difficult news to report today. Catherine Cook is live for us at OHSU Adventist Health Medical Office with the very latest on what we know right now. Catherine?
Stephanie and Tim, details are coming in as we speak. We don't know a whole lot right now, but indeed we have confirmed that 2 people have been shot, were injured, and are currently in the hospital. Their conditions unknown. That's from the Portland Police Bureau. We want to make it very clear, the Portland Police Bureau was not involved in this shooting. They tell us federal agents were involved in the shooting, but we don't know any details about how or what led up to that shooting. I can tell you that we have crime tape here on the hospital campus. Also that police tell us a short time after the shooting, which happened at around 2:15, they received a call from a person at about 148th and East Burnside. They responded and found a man and a woman both injured from the apparent shooting. They say that was related to this incident. Again, they were transported to a local hospital where their conditions are unknown. I'm going to step out of the way here so that my colleague can pan and show you the lay of the land here. Again, not a lot, but we have yellow crime tape here. We've got red crime tape toward the back of the parking lot. I can also tell you that we have seen federal agents on scene here at the hospital campus where the shooting happened. We're told the FBI is also here, and once again, that federal agents, not Portland police, were involved with the shooting. I've spoken with many from the Latino community. They've shared information with us that we're not ready to share because it needs confirmation. But again, a lot of folks here are on edge, in particular with what happened in Minneapolis. The Portland Police Chief, Bob Day, put out a statement not long ago explaining that this is not lost on him. He says, we are still in the early stages of this incident. Again, that's Chief Bob Day. We understand the heightened emotion and tension many are feeling in the wake of the shooting in Minneapolis, but I'm asking the community to remain calm as we work to learn more. They also put out a reminder that PPB does not engage in immigration enforcement as outlined by their directive, but is still responsible for maintaining public safety and enforcing state law. Chief Day's letter to the community and FAQ are out there for anybody who wants to learn more regarding immigration and their involvement. But again, out here on Southeast 102nd and Main Street, a lot of unanswered questions, a lot of fear, a lot of trepidation after two people were shot. Once again, we are told by or involving federal agents. And those two people who were shot, a man and a woman, again, at local hospitals this afternoon, recovering. Their conditions are not available right now. Tim and Stephanie, back to you.
Okay, Catherine, thank you so much. A quickly developing story. We are just learning information in the last hour about this. But just to recap what we know, just before 2:15 this afternoon, Portland police received a call about a shooting where Catherine just was at the 10200 block of Southeast Main, a shooting there that officers identified and reported to us and confirmed that federal agents had been involved in that shooting. Then around 2:30 this afternoon, officers received a call for help at 146th in East Burnside of two people, they said, who had been shot and found with apparent gunshot wounds there at the as well.
Right, and officers at that point did provide some medical aid, first aid to those two shooting victims, called for medical assistance, got them to the hospital, and again, their condition, a man and a woman, their conditions remained unknown at this point.
Let's get to Alma McCarty. She's joining us now from 146 in East Burnside. Alma, what are you learning there on scene right now?
Yeah, Tim, Stephanie, we just got here just a few minutes ago, but as we were driving up Burnside to, again, this is Northeast 146, we saw a pretty big scene here in terms of police. The FBI is on scene as well, and lots of people who live in this area kind of gathered around seeing what is going on. I'm going to step out of the way so you can get a better idea of what is happening here. You can see section of the road at this apartment complex has been cordoned off with the crime scene tape. Again, a lot of this information we are just kind of repeating, but we are only now learning what is going on. What we have heard from Portland police is that at 2:24, those Portland police officers received information that a man had been shot and was calling for help in this particular area, 146th Avenue and East Burnside. Officers responded, found a man and a woman with apparent gunshot wounds. Officers applied a tourniquet, summoned emergency personnel. The patients were then transported, as Catherine had said, to the hospital. Again, their conditions at this time are unknown, but we do know that this was a shooting involving federal agents, not involving Portland police. Again, worth mentioning that Portland police do not work with immigration in terms of immigration enforcement. They do not work with CBP. They do not work with ICE. Again, this is in the early stages, but obviously a lot of interest out here and a lot of information that is still coming into us. And we will be sure to keep you updated as we learn more. Stephanie, Tim, back to you.
All right, Alma, thank you so much for that. We've been told we do have a statement, an FBI statement now we want to show you here, if we can get it up on the screen, just came into our newsroom. It looks like it says FBI Portland is investigating an agent-involved shooting that happened at approximately 2:15 p.m. near the 10,000 block of Main Street in Portland, involving Customs and Border Patrol agents, in which two individuals were wounded. This remains an active and ongoing investigation led by the FBI. Please follow this thread for updates regarding this matter.
And that's a statement on X or Twitter there from FBI Portland. We're going to go to Selene Stevens now, who has more information on the situation. Selene?
Tim and Stephanie, so this really unfolded. We saw in real time when the city constituent consultant came out to tell us about this emergency situation. So this was a protest. There were 10 people or so outside City Hall, and they were going inside to try and talk to Mayor Wilson about the land use violation regarding the ICE facility and revoking that land use approval. So when they went up there, they got in front of the office, and then that constituent consultant came out and said the mayor would not be able to meet with them because of an emergency in Portland involving ICE. Now, it's still unclear if it is the same incident that Catherine just referenced. Now, before this all happened, I spoke with the protesters about why they came out here today.
We have been demanding that City Council and the mayor take steps to shut down the Portland ICE facility for months now, since June. And things have really come to a head now when a woman was murdered just a day ago, in Minneapolis. So we're here today to demand that they take immediate action, because what we saw yesterday is that their inaction can actually cost a life.
And again, that's before that we learned of the news. And again, it's unknown if the mayor's inability to meet was due to the same incident that Catherine was referencing. We also just got a statement from the mayor's office, and I'm going to read part of it right now, that says we cannot sit by while constitutional protections erode and bloodshed mounts. Portland is not a training ground for militarized agents, and the full force threatened by this administration has deadly consequences. As mayor, I call on ICE to end all operations in Portland until a full investigation can be completed. Again, the mayor just sent out that memo around less than 5 minutes or so ago. He also concludes and says he calls on every Portlander to represent our values and to show up with calm and purpose during this difficult time. Portland does not respond to violence with violence. We respond with clarity, unity, and a commitment to justice. We must stand together to protect Portland. Again, that coming from Mayor Wilson. We'll continue to update you as we get more developments on this. Back to you.
All right, Selene, thanks very much. And just to emphasize, this is the first time we've heard city officials say that federal agents, in fact, were the ones who shot these two individuals. And that's pointed out in Mayor Wilson's statement this afternoon.
Yes, and we do know those two people are at a hospital. We don't know their condition at this time. We will update you as we learn more on that. But as this shooting happened, City Council was in the middle of a session to vote on a new president. Alana Purtle-Guiney then interrupted the discussion. Take a listen.
Just a day after the shooting in Minneapolis of Renee Good, there was a shooting involving two Portlanders in East Portland with federal agents. We are still waiting for more details, but needed to pull counselors to get a briefing and an update so that we could ensure that we were prepared to respond.
All right, we're going to get back to Mayor Wilson's statement at this point. I believe we have it in a graphic that we'll be able to read a little bit for you. Is that accurate? Okay, well then we won't be doing that. Maybe we should recap again just to get people caught up to date. We started a newscast a few minutes early today with this breaking news that began in the 2 o'clock hour. At 2:18, Portland police responded to reports of a shooting in the 10200 block of Southeast Main Street. When they got there, they found that they did find fact that there was evidence of a shooting, and that included federal officers being involved with that. Then just about 6 minutes later, reports coming from a man calling for help, having been shot. That was at 146th and East Burnside. Officers there found two people shot, a man and a woman, helped them with medical aid, in fact, applying a tourniquet in one case to one of those victims, and then getting them off to their hospital. And we don't know their conditions at this point.
We're learning this news just from Portland Police in the last 30 minutes. We also received a statement from Chief Bob Day, who said, quote, "We are still in the early stages of this incident. We understand the heightened emotion in Minneapolis, but I am asking the community to remain calm as we work to learn more." Of course, this is one day after a woman was shot in Minneapolis by ICE agents there.
All right, shot and killed there. And now we're going to go to Catherine Cook, who's at 146th and East Burnside for us with more details. Catherine.
Hey, Tim. Actually, we're over to clarify on 102nd and Southeast Main Street, the other scene in this situation. This is where police tell us it all began at this Adventist OHSU medical office. The parking lot behind us, you may be able to see some red crime tape. We are told that this is where the shooting happened. Portland police tell us that federal agents, Homeland Security federal agents, were those who were involved in the shooting. They shot apparently two people, a man and a woman. After that happened, around 2:15, Police responded to an emergency call at 146th and East Burnside, where they found the man and woman with gunshot wounds. They rendered aid on those two people and then made sure they were able to be transported to a local hospital. We do not know their condition at this hour, but here it is very tense. I can step out of the way. You can kind of see the lay of the land. It is unclear what the man and woman were doing here in the first place, or what federal agents were doing here for that matter. But we do know that the shooting happened here and that the two injured parties ended up several miles away in a different area in Portland. And again, they are both in the hospital right now receiving treatment. Their conditions unknown. Certainly tensions are heightened. Folks around Portland, from just citizens out here wondering what happened to the mayor, to the police chief. And as you've been following, this has all sort of been unfolding in real time with city council members finding out about this and announcing what details they know. Certainly a lot of questions regarding Portland police involvement, but we want to be very clear. Again, they were not involved in the shooting here. They responded to help the shooting victims and are keeping the scene safe and clear. Chief Bob Day put out a statement saying, "We are still in the early stages of this incident. We understand the heightened emotion and tension many are feeling in the wake of the shooting in Minneapolis, but I'm asking the community to remain calm as we learn more about this incident." Other information coming in, we're told that Multnomah County District Attorney Nathan Vasquez is on the way out to the scene currently, trying to find out exactly what's going on. He does plan to monitor the scene and assist in any way he can, as would any officer involved shooting. That's a statement from DA Vasquez's office. But again, just sort of really learning in real time what's happening here. And again, we don't know the condition of the man and woman who were shot. We are told that they're in the hospital. And again, that two federal agents, or rather federal agents, are the ones who pulled the trigger. Back to you.
All right, Catherine, thank you. I know this happened less than 2 hours ago. I know you arrived right on scene as quickly as you could. When you got there, were there any people who had been in that area when this happened, or anyone nearby that you were able to gather information from on scene? Witnesses, perhaps?
Not eyewitnesses. Folks who were here responded after the fact. We had spoken with folks who were waiting to get their cars from the parking lot. I talked with one woman who was waiting to get a mammogram here at the medical office. Many people from the Latino community, the Hispanic leaders of our community, I've spoken with them out here. They've shared information with me that I'm not able to confirm at this time, but there is a very real reason they're out here as well. But nobody that we spoke with actually saw the shooting, heard the shooting. My guess, if I could take one, is that after the fact, police cordoned off the area and folks who were witnesses may have been taken in to be questioned, because certainly it's typical of a scene like this in which we'd find witnesses that quickly as we were able to respond to the scene after the shooting, but that was not the case today.
All right, Catherine, thank you very much. Now we've got Kyle Aboshi on the line as well, out there live for us. And Kyle, what can you bring us today?
So I'm standing just outside of Legacy Emmanuel Hospital, and behind me you can see the emergency entrance. That's when ambulances bring patients in. We haven't seen any activity as far as emergency personnel coming in since we've been here, but we've been here just a short period of time. We have noticed a heavy police presence. We've noticed Portland police officers here in marked vehicles, Washington County Sheriff's Office, Multnomah County Sheriff's Office. Also in the distance, what appears to be some plainclothes officers with their badges outside on display, standing outside of the emergency room. We don't exactly know who those officers are with or what law enforcement agency they might be with. At this point, there's been no information given to us about the number of patients that were transported here or their current conditions. Obviously, this is a trauma center. This is oftentimes when we see shootings in the Portland metropolitan area that are quite serious, they're rushed to this hospital and treated here. So it's not unusual to find emergency personnel here, including police oftentimes. But again, we're still awaiting any information we may be getting from Legacy Emmanuel Hospital here.
All right, Kyle, thank you so much for that report. We do want to get back to Catherine Cook, who we hear is getting some information right now on scene. Catherine?
Yeah, we've got PIO Kevin Allen here with the latest.
That's part of the investigation. So, yeah. So like I said, I'm not doing official interviews right now because this is not our investigation. We're just assisting. So
who is the official one?
I don't know.
Can you clarify PPB's involvement in this case, not involvement in this?
Well, we responded to the original call, which is in the press release. So, and we're just securing the crime scene, and now the investigation part is underway.
We're not seeing any witnesses out here. Can you explain maybe why?
I'm going to step away because my phone is blowing up. That's everything that I have to offer right now, and we're going to be giving you guys updates as appropriate with the when we were talking about doing a press conference later. So.
Can you say your full name again one more time? Sure. All right, so that's Sergeant Kevin Allen with Portland Police Bureau. As you can see, they're pretty much hands-off in the situation right now. Portland Police offering security, making sure that the scene is contained, but they're not necessarily directly involved in this case. Again, they responded to those who were injured and rendered aid, made sure that the 2 shooting victims were taken to the hospital. But again, this is a federal case. Federal agents were told, pull the trigger. So Portland Police, kind of a peripheral position right now. Back to you.
All right, Catherine, thank you. And before we were able to get him up on camera, Kevin Allen with PPB was confirming that this shooting did happen in the parking lot of Adventist Hospital. And then the victims drove to Northeast 146
Thank you. Sorry about that.
in Burnside and were transported to the hospital from there.
Right, and that's where Alma McCarty is right now in the Hazelwood neighborhood with more from that second location. Alma.
Hey, Tim, Stephanie. Yeah, we are out here in that neighborhood now, and we're still trying to get a handle on all of this. But as you said earlier, the shooting happened several miles away, a couple miles away, and then the patients appear to have come back to this location. I'm going to just go ahead, step out of the way. This is at the Bria Apartments. This is what has been sectioned off by police tape. Still a lot of Portland police on scene here. We did, again, earlier see the FBI on scene as well. Again, just trying to get some more information. There seem to be a lot of neighbors who are out and about taking pictures and just kind of wondering what is happening too. Not any kind of a chaotic scene by any means, just a lot of people out here and still, again, a lot of questions. But this, again, there was a man and a woman, apparent gunshot wounds. They were found in this area and then taken to the hospital. Right there we see one of the neighbors kind of confronting Portland police, asking about what is going on here. When we did roll up earlier, there was one of the neighbors that we saw, just disappointed that this is what has happened, that federal agents have apparently shot 2 people within the city of Portland. So for now, we're just going to work on getting some more information about what is going on out here in the Hazelwood neighborhood. And for now, Stephanie and Tim, I'm going to send it back to you.
Alma, I asked Catherine the same question, but are there people around there or neighbors, residents there that you've been able to gather any information from?
Honestly, Stephanie, I think that people are trying to figure out for themselves what is going on, asking us questions as well, recording some of the interactions that are happening between police, just asking questions. So I think people are mostly trying to get a handle on it. Doesn't seem that anybody out here knows exactly what is going on.
Okay, Alma McCarty reporting for us. Thank you so much.
We're going to recap a little bit for you now. This all started going down in the 2 o'clock hour. It was just before 2:20 this afternoon that Portland police got a report of a shooting in the 10200 block of Southeast Main Street. That's near Adventist Hospital on the east side. A report of a shooting there. Officers confirmed at that point when they got there that federal officers were involved. We've got that confirmed also from the FBI at this point, saying that they were Customs and Border Patrol agents. In which 2 different individuals were shot there. Then just a few minutes later, reports coming from a man calling for help that he'd been shot at 146th and East Burnside, not that far away, a few miles away. Officers found 2 people shot there, a man and a woman, supplied some medical aid to them, in fact, even using a tourniquet on one of those victims, and then they were rushed to the hospital their conditions unknown at this time.
We've heard from Portland police who very clearly said they don't have any part in this investigation. They were not part of what happened. They did respond to the 2 calls asking for help into the police department. We heard from Mayor Keith Wilson this afternoon, who released a statement recently, just in the last hour, saying, quote, just one day after the horrific violence in Minnesota at the hands of federal agents, our community here in Portland is now grappling with another deeply troubling incident. Earlier this afternoon, 2 people were shot and injured by federal agents in the Hazelwood neighborhood. Mayor Wilson being the first one to confirm that the federal agents did, in fact, shoot these 2 people. We do want to make it clear we know that they're in the hospital. We don't know which area hospital they are being treated at, and we don't know their condition at this time. We're following that closely. We were also told earlier this afternoon that Legacy Health was under a lockdown situation. But to say more from what Mayor Wilson told us earlier, quote, we cannot sit by while constitutional protections erode and bloodshed mounts. Portland is not a training ground for militarized agents, and the full force threatened by the administration has deadly consequences.
And the FBI says they're the lead on both of these investigations at both locations. One thing we don't know yet is what they were doing at the time that this shooting happened, whether they were trying to apprehend some individuals or exactly the circumstances surrounding the shootings this afternoon.
Let's also talk about, we heard from Chief Bob Day a little while ago as well, who released a statement that said, quote, we are still in the early stages of this incident. We understand the heightened emotion and tension many are feeling in the wake of the shooting in Minneapolis, but I am asking the community to remain calm as we work to learn more. That was a quote from Chief Day.
Right, and tensions are high already before this shooting today, after the shooting in Minnesota of 37-year-old Renee Good, a woman who was in a vehicle on the street. ICE agents or federal agents approached her as she tried to drive off. The different accounts, so you've seen the video. There were officers around. She was shot and killed there in Minnesota, and a lot of unrest after that situation there yesterday and into today. And now we have a situation here in Portland as well.
Yeah, Portland protesting. We've, of course, heard from people in Portland. I do want to give a statement that we just received from 2 East Portland city councilors. Councilor Avalos and Dunphy responded to this shooting. This is just into our newsroom, saying, quote, today ICE shot 2 of our East Portland neighbors, just one day after an ICE agent shot and killed a Minneapolis mother. We are still waiting for more information at this time, but this is part of a pattern of violence that we have seen too many times across our country. So we do know now, confirmed, according to Portland City Councilors, that these were 2 East Portlanders who were shot by federal agents just after 2 o'clock this afternoon.
All right, and a similar statement coming in from Maxine Dexter, Congresswoman here from Oregon's 3rd Congressional District, saying, quote, just one day after the horrific murder in Minneapolis, I received reports that 2 people in my district were shot by federal immigration officials this afternoon in East Portland. Both individuals are alive, but we do not know the extent of their injuries. ICE has done nothing but inject terror, chaos, and cruelty into our communities. Trump's immigration machine is using violence to control our communities straight out of the authoritarian playbook. And she goes on from there.
We're hearing statements from people across Portland, across Oregon, and they will continue to come in. We will update you as we learn more from them. But first, we want to get back out to Kyle Aboshi. He's joining us from Legacy Health. Kyle, what are you learning there now?
Well, we're standing just outside of Legacy Mayoral Hospital, and there is a heavy police presence. Important to note, we don't know the condition of those 2 people who were shot and injured. We do believe they're being treated here at Legacy Mayoral. Behind me, you can see the emergency entrance. This is where ambulances typically come with trauma patients to bring them in for treatment. Since we've been here, which has been a relatively short period of time, we have not seen any ambulances coming in with lights and siren. We have seen a heavy police presence, though. There are police cars around the area on the street as well, police vehicles, Washington County Sheriff's Office, Portland Police, as well as Multnomah County Sheriff's Office. And it appears, earlier we noticed what it looked like some plainclothes officers standing by the front entrance of that emergency room entrance, along with security for Legacy as well. But we have not been getting any information, and in all likelihood, I would be surprised if we got any information directly from the hospital, simply because of federal patient privacy laws. But we're being asked to stay off property, which is normal procedure, monitoring the situation to see if there is any additional information coming from police, medics, or anybody else from the community. We'll continue to stay here. Send it back
Kyle,
to you.
any word if Legacy is still on lockdown? We heard that earlier this afternoon.
You know, I don't know that and cannot answer that, honestly. In looking around here, it's relatively quiet, but having stood on this sidewalk many times before in news coverage, that's not unusual for it to be relatively quiet outside. So I'll work to confirm that and get additional information for you.
Okay, thank you so much, Kyle Bushi, reporting from Legacy Health this afternoon.
Yep. All right, we've got a statement from Jeff Merkley, I believe, that we can bring up for you as well. The statement's coming in on this. We'll put it up on the screen. I'd be happy to read it for you. That is the FBI statement. We can go with that one first. FBI Portland is investigating an agent-involved shooting that happened at approximately 2:15. Here is the Senator Jeff Merkley post that just came out on X. He says, huge concern about a reported shooting of 2 individuals by federal agents outside Portland Adventist Hospital. My team and I are closely monitoring the situation and are working hard to get answers. I will share any updates as I learn more. Please keep protests of Portland's ICE CBP peaceful as Trump wants to generate riots. Don't take the bait.
Let's get back out to our Alma McCarty. She's joining us from 146th and East Burnside. Alma, any updates there on scene for us?
Yeah, I can tell you, Stephanie and Tim, that some of the members of Portra contra las Deportaciones are out here. They were some of the folks that held a rally earlier this week, actually just last night, that we attended. They were really speaking out against what had happened in Minneapolis, Minnesota, involving Renee Nicole Good, and they are out here tonight as well with some of the neighbors. I'm going to step out of the way. We just got a different kind of an angle of the situation. In terms of an update, don't have much for you at this time. It is obviously a very, very active scene. More media personnel appear to be showing up. And this, again, is the spot where Portland police responded to after responding to Adventist Health in terms of this is where the male and woman, or the male and female were found. Again, we do not know their condition at this time, but we are just going to keep eyes on the situation here for you. Again, unfortunately, no major update from our location on Burnside, East Burnside, and Northeast 146th Avenue at this time. Tim, Stephanie, back to you.
All right, Alma McCarty, thanks very much for that report from the Hazelwood neighborhood. I'm not sure what's coming up next.
Let's give you a recap if you're just joining us. Troubling news today, a day after a woman was shot and killed by ICE agents in Minneapolis. Today in Portland, we have learned that 2 federal agents have shot 2 people here in Portland just after 2 o'clock, around 2:15 this afternoon. Portland police were called to the 10,200 block of Maine, Southeast Maine, for someone who had been shot. And then later being called to 146th and Southeast Burnside, where they were then found. 2 people were found, a man and a woman, and they were taken to the hospital for treatment. We don't know their conditions right now. We are working to learn them.
Right, and the FBI confirms that it was Customs and Border Patrol agents who were involved in the shooting. We're going to go to Catherine Cook now, who's live near Adventist Hospital in Southeast Portland.
My guess is correct, but again, I'm sorry to hear it.
You know, given what happened in Minnesota yesterday, I mean, feelings are definitely heightened right now. How does it make you feel that this happened here in Portland? Did you think it could happen, a shooting like that?
Yes, actually. I think it can happen anywhere. I really do. I mean, we're all so worried about all of these people that have to worry about ICE and the people, the police ICE people. So we've had the protests downtown, but I don't know that, you would think that it would come up to a building like this, here in our neighborhood.
But did you think with what happened in Minnesota, the protests we've seen over the past few months in downtown, like you just mentioned, that it was only a matter of time before something like this happened?
Guys, we're hearing from a patient who was waiting to get into the clinic around the same time as this shooting. It's just another one of the people who are kind of mystified by what's happened. This woman was waiting for an appointment when she saw the melee that followed. Was not an eyewitness to the shooting, but again, just another person in the community who's very concerned. I'll have you turn around here, Aiden, and you can kind of see the lay of the land right now, the crime tape around the medical office building, and beyond here you have the red crime tape. Again, this is where we are told by Portland police that federal agents shot 2 people. Those 2 people were then, they drove to 146th and East Burnside, called police responded, and then rendered medical aid and took them to a local hospital where they're now, we're told, actually we don't know their condition at this time. So again, just waiting to learn details here. We're hearing from multiple lawmakers, from mayor, the police chief, the Multnomah County DA. They're all sort of just waiting to see and hear what happens next, but very active scene out here with multiple federal agents, just trying to figure out exactly what happened. I spoke with one woman who expressed frustration, wondering if perhaps the 2 people who were shot were followed here for a medical appointment, but that's pure speculation. We don't know exactly what brought them to this facility. It is a question, though. What were federal agents doing at a medical office? Certainly one of those questions we're hoping to get answers from federal officials tonight. Back to you.
All right, Catherine, thanks so much. And just to check in with you about something there, we saw in the video there the crime scene tape, the yellow and the red, and there seems to be a black sedan, maybe a Hyundai sedan back there in the parking lot. Have you been able to confirm if that's connected with this incident or not?
We have not. Unfortunately, we're not able to get beyond these tapes, as you can imagine. But I can tell you that there are multiple branches of federal agencies out here. It is unclear exactly how they are connected at this time, but the FBI is most visibly present at this time during the investigation.
Great. Thanks a lot, Catherine.
All right, I want to get out to our Selene Stevens now. She's joining us, I believe, from City Hall with potentially some updates for us there. Selene, what are you learning? I see you're with a counselor right now.
Right now, just came out to see us right now about everything that's going on. I'm going to go ahead and turn on my mic really fast.
Celine's getting her mic. There we go.
Home, if everybody's able to hear me there, sorry about that. Again, I'm here with Counselor Jamie Dunphy right now, and he's going to just speak to us. He came out to talk to us about everything that just happened, and so I just want to ask you, I mean, this is, we just saw this happen yesterday in Minneapolis, and now we're seeing it here at home. Just what's your initial reaction to that when the news broke?
I mean, we started the day raw, as it was. The city of Portland was already grieving for our friends in Minneapolis, and we know that the federal government has been trying to escalate things here in the city of Portland. And two days in a row, federal officers shooting people who are trying to get away from unlawful detention. This is clearly a pattern that is starting to emerge, and that the federal government is obviously trying to escalate across the nation.
And just to confirm, is it safe to say that that emergency meeting that was referenced earlier when the protesters were here, was this that incident that you guys had to break for?
Yeah, absolutely. We were in the middle of voting for our new council president, in which we had to emergency recess because that had just happened and we just learned about it. So we were rushed into a hearing or a briefing on it.
All right, and just sort of last thing, I guess, I know you have a lot to do, but again, this is something we just saw happen yesterday, and now we're seeing it here with 2 people involved. I mean, what do you have to say to Portlanders? There were people here already rallying regarding the ICE facility, and now this has happened. So what's your message to Portlanders tonight?
Portlanders are going to show up, and we're going to protest, and we're going to let our voices be known that this is not the kind of acceptable behavior from the federal government that Portlanders expect. This is tyranny. This is jackbooted thugs in our community masked up and killing our neighbors, or trying to kill our neighbors. I expect Portlanders to use their voices to be able to peacefully come out and demonstrate that this is not the community that we are, and that this is not what we expect from our federal government, and to expect better, to demand better.
All right. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Again, we're continuing to bring those updates to you all right now. City Hall is pretty quiet. Again, I was here 2 hours ago when that news broke, and there were around 10 to 12 protesters that were here. Again, pretty quiet scene right now. Nothing too much going on, but again, we'll continue to bring those updates to you guys as we get them. For now, back to you.
Okay, important update, Selene. Thank you so much for that. All right, we want to get to Senator Ron Wyden, who just released a statement for us. We want to see if we can get it here up on your screen for you. This just coming into our newsroom on X. I'm monitoring the first awful reports of 2 people shot in Portland by federal law enforcement. I'll keep you updated, but Trump's deployment of federal agents in my hometown is clearly inflaming violence and must end, end quote.
All right, since we are at about the half-hour mark here at 4:30 or so, we can update you a little bit and recap what we know so far. These incidents began in the 2 o'clock hour, just before 2:20 this afternoon. There was a call for a disturbance with a weapon near Adventist Hospital in southeast Portland. There, Portland police officers arrived and found that there was a shooting there that involved federal officers. Then just a few minutes later, a call came in for help from a man just about 3 miles away in the Hazelwood neighborhood for help having been shot. So Portland officers arrived there, found there were 2 victims, a man and a woman, and they were both injured, obviously, by shootings. They helped with medical aid there and got them to the hospital. Their conditions unknown.
We have our Kyle Aboshi at Legacy Health, which was put into lockdown this afternoon. We don't know the status of it, if it's still on lockdown right now. He said that he does believe on scene that the 2 victims, the man and the woman, were taken to Legacy Health for treatment. We don't know their conditions. We know they are Portlanders who live in East Portland. We did hear from several of the East Portland city councilors who said that the 2 who were shot were East Portland neighbors.
Right. Statement from Janelle Bynum, Congresswoman for Oregon's 5th District, just into us. And she says, this isn't law enforcement, it's state-sponsored terrorism. This is the 2nd shooting this week by agents following the orders of a wannabe dictator who is trying to take over cities and rule by instilling terror in the hearts of American people.
Let's get back to City Hall. Selene Stevens has another counselor for us, Counselor Candace Avalos. Selene?
Hi, yeah, I'm here with Candace Avalos right now, Councilor Avalos, and again, we're just trying to get this live reaction from our city councilors right now. Obviously, we had Mayor Wilson that released that statement about 20-30 minutes ago, but I just want to ask you right now, I mean, that news broke, barely an hour or so ago, we learned of this. What was your initial reaction as well?
Anger, enragement about the way that the federal government, this pattern of violence continues to escalate. They continue to target our community. And as someone who represents the district with the most immigrants, and as a daughter of immigrants, this is personal.
Were you in the chambers when this occurred?
Yes.
Did you know immediately that this was a shooting related to federal agents, or when did you learn that?
We were in chambers, we were told to leave, and within a few minutes we were getting the information. So it was all happening pretty quickly, but we learned pretty quickly.
And so, I've been out there at the ICE facility during the protests. So many reporters have, and I mean, I don't know if we've ever seen anything happen like this. We saw in Minneapolis, obviously yesterday, this happened to somebody, and now one day later, we're seeing it here on the streets of Portland. Just, what do you have to say about that, and how does that make you feel?
It makes me feel like our president and his administration is incredibly dangerous and unstable, and every day it's getting worse, and we need our Congress to act immediately. There is no answer right now that is not impeach, convict, and remove this dangerous man who is threatening our communities. Our democracy cannot survive this.
Okay. Is there anything else that you want to add to tell Portlanders that may be watching this? I know a lot of people, there were people here already protesting 2 hours ago, and they were telling me that they're worried that inaction with things like the ICE facility and other things like that would lead to a death, and within an hour of them saying those words, this happened. So is there anything that you'd like to tell people that are watching at home off of that?
Absolutely. I understand your frustration, and I'm really doing every single thing in my power. Every single moment, we are trying to find new ways to interrupt these patterns of violence. And so I am committed to continue to do that, and I'm going to be up all night figuring it out.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. Again, we're trying to get counselors live to speak with us again. Immediate reaction. This just happened. Everything is still coming in as we speak. So we're just trying to get as many people to speak with us and just share their thoughts about this incident that occurred as soon as we can. So for right now, I'm going to go ahead and toss it back to you guys at the desk.
All right, Selene Stevens, thanks very much there at City Hall. We're going to go to Catherine Cook now. She's out in southeast Portland near Adventist Hospital. That was the scene of where the shooting occurred. The very first shooting happened there this afternoon.
And Tim, the responses continue to pour in from lawmakers and congressional delegates. We have a statement here from Congresswoman Janelle Bynum saying this isn't law enforcement, it's state-sponsored terrorism. Certainly a lot of anger and frustration and worry, not knowing the condition of the 2 people shot. To recap, it all started here on the campus of Portland Adventist OHSU Medical Clinic behind us on 102nd and Southeast Main around 2:30 this afternoon. That's where police tell us that federal agents shot two people, a man and a woman. Those two people then drove to 146th and East Burnside, where they contacted Portland police. Police responded, rendered aid, helped them, and got them to a local hospital where they are recovering. But it's unclear their conditions again. But so we have two different scenes here, guys, and a lot of unanswered questions. Certainly the biggest one on folks' mind out here in East Multnomah County is, what were federal agents doing at a hospital? What were they doing at a medical center? What were the two people who were shot doing here? Were they arriving for a checkup? We're told that this is a clinic that accepts a lot of mammogram patients, people coming for ultrasounds. Again, we don't know who the two people were who were shot, but we're told that they are in the hospital now, apparently recovering. We don't know their conditions. But again, just kind of a lot of unanswered questions as we feel out this scene. It's unclear where this investigation is going. Certainly a lot of people are talking about what happened in Minneapolis. How does that impact the investigation unfolding here? I can tell you that Multnomah County DA Nathan Vasquez is on scene. He is prepared to speak with us a little bit later. Portland Police Chief Bob Day releasing his advice to the community, asking everybody to remain calm as this unfolds. So certainly a lot of people just waiting for answers tonight. Back to you.
Yes, absolutely. We heard from Chief Day asking for calm, Mayor Wilson asking for calm as this plays out. Catherine, thank you so much for that update. And she recapped that after that shooting happened near Adventist Hospital, these two people, a man and a woman, drove to Northeast 146th and Burnside, and that is where they called police again and were taken to a hospital from there. We have our Blair Best joining us now from that area. Blair, what have you learned since you arrived?
So we're at Northeast 146th and East Burnside. This is where Portland police officers found the two people who were shot by federal agents. And just to sort of set the scene for you, this is a very residential area. We're surrounded by large apartment complexes. As you can see, there's the police tape there. There's officers walking around. There's more than half a dozen Portland police cruisers. But I want to pan it back over this way. I have a man, his name is Alex. He lives right next to where a lot of this police activity is unfolding. So Alex, talk to us. What have you seen today?
When I was coming back home and I didn't see the actual shooting, but they had the whole street blocked off. And just in talking to people, it sounds like somebody was trying to get away from them in their car and was shot. That's the most that I've heard.
Can you describe sort of the tone of this neighborhood?
We're all just working class people. There's a lot of immigrants. I think everyone around here knows that. But they keep to themselves. They don't cause any trouble for me. I live right here. They don't touch my stuff. When I have problems, it's from U.S.-born people.
How does this make you feel watching this unfold right outside your doorstep?
I am beyond angry that this is happening the day after they killed that woman. I mean, this has gone too far. This is beyond voting. We need to do something. Like, the people need to do something. This is ridiculous.
Have you seen ICE agents come into your neighborhood before?
Not to this complex, but I've been kind of waiting for it, because I had a feeling that they were going to be here at some point. I've seen them on Division, and I've seen them at the MAX stations, but this is the first time they've been on our street.
What would your message be to these federal agents?
Get out of my city. You're not welcome here.
Okay. Thank you, Alex. We're going to keep following this and talking with neighbors as this unfolds tonight. Back to you.
Blair, thank you so much. Clearly very visibly emotional, hitting home for
Certainly
people
so.
who live in that area, especially him.
Selene Stevens at City Hall for us live there. And Selene, who are you talking with now?
Hi, yeah, we're talking with Councilor Canal right now. We're now live. Thank you so much for stepping out real quick to talk about this with me. I've been asking all the councilors that I can speak with, just their initial reaction to learning this news a few hours ago regarding the federal agent shooting. So tell me, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, horrified, not surprised, and outraged. We've been talking about ICE and its activities, its lawlessness for months now. And actually, this is a conversation that goes back years. And it's just a matter of time until something like this happened here, until the federal government reins in this force and takes it apart. We will not have an end to the violence.
Is this something that obviously we saw this in Minneapolis yesterday, is this something that you expected or you never thought it would get to this extent here at home?
I absolutely thought it was possible. That's why we've been working on legislation to try and rein in this government as it operates here for a number of months now. Yesterday, I thought about Minneapolis. I was in Minneapolis in October and met a lot of the local leaders there. Drove on Portland Avenue, actually, where the shooting happened, and I'm keeping the families of Renee Nicole Good in Minneapolis and our 2 Portlanders who are injured right now in my thoughts.
When you talk about reining in how the government operates here, are you able to specify what exactly you mean in terms of that?
In terms of what we can do and in terms of what the federal government can do are 2 different things. We have to talk about ensuring that federal agents are not masked when they operate in the city limits of Portland. But broadly speaking, the federal government has a responsibility to take apart ICE brick by brick.
And just sort of last thing, speaking, there are Portlanders here that were rallying when we learned of the news. They were trying to meet with Mayor Wilson regarding the ICE facility, and they were told he couldn't come out because of this emergency situation, and we learned about all this unfolding right before our eyes. So to the Portlanders that were already, they said they felt like, inaction would lead to something like this. And now, obviously, there has been an incident. I mean, what do you have to say to people that, have been protesting at the ICE facility here, are going to continue? What do you have to say to those people?
I'm proud of them. I'm proud of our Portlanders for standing up for the human rights of every person in this country. And I'm proud of them for doing so in a way that's overwhelmingly peaceful and grounded in our values here as a city.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. We're going to go ahead and toss it back to you guys at the desk. We've heard from 3 councilors here, but again, back to you guys.
All right, Selene Stevens, thank you very much.
We want to get back out to Catherine Cook, who's joining us near Adventist Hospital. Catherine, the DA just arrived there.
Concerned and
yes, we're going to hear from him right now. This is DA Nathan Vasquez.
we are here from the District Attorney's Office to monitor, to assist, and to make sure that there's a thorough and complete investigation, that evidence is fully preserved, and that we're certainly hoping that we can get all of the facts about what transpired here today, and we will work to update the public as we go forward and get more information.
Who is the head investigator on this right now? I know PPP is not.
Right now, I don't have a lot to say about that as this investigation is starting to unfold, and it's certainly the different agencies involved are coming together. But we are working closely with Portland Police, and the FBI certainly is here, and we're making sure that that they have all the resources that they need. And of course, our priority and main concern is that there is a thorough and complete investigation, that all facts that can be learned are obtained, and that we can get as much information as possible.
DA Vasquez, what's your message to the community right now?
I think the message to the community is that local officials are very carefully monitoring this, and we're making sure that the interests of this community are well represented, and that this investigation is done in a thorough and complete manner.
Can you say anything about the scene? That's all you can say. What's the status of the victim?
So that was Multnomah County District Attorney Nathan Vasquez. He's here to monitor the situation. As you heard him say, he doesn't know a ton about the unfolding investigation, and that's not why he's here. He's making sure that the community is informed in terms of what their part is in this investigation. Portland Police is not involved, as you heard, and certainly just a lot of folks, a lot of law enforcement agencies just kind of on the peripheral right now, as this is a federal case at this time. But certainly his presence here attributes the gravity of the situation, and again, we're just waiting to hear more as the information comes out. It's slow going tonight, guys. As you've heard, we've been kind of recapping what we know, but not a lot of new information.
Yeah,
Back to you.
absolutely. But keeping us up to date, Catherine, on the scene there, thank you so much. We were just hearing from DA Nathan Vasquez that she just heard from quickly, but the question around who is investigating this, Portland police is not investigating. Of course, they answered the 2 calls that came initially about these shootings. We did hear from the FBI on X. They did release a statement or made a post. They said that the FBI Portland is investigating an agent-involved shooting that happened at approximately 2:15 near the 10,000 block of Main Street in Portland, which is where Catherine is, involving Customs and Border Patrol agents. It actually is Customs and Border Protection agents, we should mention, in which 2 individuals were wounded. We don't know the condition at this time, but we are tracking that, and we will update you as we learn more.
Right, and I think it's notable what DA Vasquez said there in that interview, saying that the DA's office is working closely with Portland police, and the FBI is there, and they're getting them any resources that they may need. But he didn't say they're working with the FBI. This is an FBI-led investigation.
Yes, the FBI has said they are leading the ongoing investigation.
Right. All right. Well, you know, this comes a day after ICE agents shot a protester in Minnesota.
Yeah, the governor, Tim Walz, there has authorized the National Guard to be staged and ready to support law enforcement if needed as protests continue over a woman who was killed yesterday by an ICE officer.
Now, 37-year-old Renee Good was fatally shot by an ICE agent during an immigration operation, sparking national outrage and protests, including here in Portland. Protests in Minneapolis have remained peaceful for the most of the day, but there have been some clashes between federal agents and protesters. Federal officials say there is an ongoing investigation, but Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem and Vice President J.D. Vance both say the ICE officer was shooting in self-defense. Governor Tim Walz says the FBI has shut state investigators out. Meanwhile, a memorial is growing for Renee Good.
This woman deserves much more than flowers, but this is the best that we can do in this moment for her to honor her memory and her life and what she meant to all of her loved ones in her community.
The ICE agent at the center of the shooting has been identified now. His name is Jonathan Ross. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem says he was involved in a separate incident last summer where he was dragged by a car and injured while trying to arrest a sex offender.
We want to get back out to Northeast 146th Avenue in Burnside. That's where we find Blair Best. Blair, what have you learned?
So joining me now live is a leader of a local protest group. Her name is Holly Brown. So she tells me she was actually at City Council when city councilors had to go into that emergency recess, and then she came here. She was protesting for another ICE-related issue. Explain to me what happened today.
Yeah, so I'm a part of a group called Portland Contra las Deportaciones. We're an immigrant rights organization in Portland. We went to demand a meeting with the mayor today to demand that he shut down the Portland ICE facility and revoke the permit. So we went and knocked on his door. An employee came out, and while we were in there, the employee told us that he couldn't meet with us because there was an emergency, and he's on the phone with ICE and the Portland Police Bureau. We then heard that City Council went on an emergency recess, and we saw counselors go into his office. So we knew something serious had happened, and for us, we were like, okay, we knew that this was going to happen, right? Like, ICE has been targeting people. You've needed to step up for a long time now. But yeah, essentially then we saw a screenshot of a police scanner saying that someone had been shot by ICE.
And so what did you make of all of that as it was unfolding?
I mean, multiple of us cried. We were really upset. Obviously, yesterday, someone was murdered by police. Sorry, not by police. Someone was murdered by ICE in Minneapolis. So it's a part of a pattern of escalation by ICE. I think people are feeling very fearful, very angry, very upset.
And so what are you doing out here today? What's sort of your message?
Yeah, our message is that we want ICE out of Portland. This happened here in Portland. Someone was shot in Portland by ICE. The city has many different avenues that it could take to tamp down on ICE and to curb its behavior here, like shutting down the Portland ICE facility. So that's what we're calling on them to do. But in general, we also just want ICE to be held accountable. And we want ICE out of Portland, and we also want people to feel empowered. They're trying to scare us right now, but we have the power to fight back. And I'm really hoping that people can come together in the upcoming days to protest and stand against this.
Okay, thank you for talking with us. We have lost connection out here, so we're going to work with some technical things, but I'll toss it back inside to you.
All right, Blair Best, thank you very much. And Alma McCarty in that same area, the Hazelwood neighborhood. Alma, what can you bring us?
Yeah, what I can tell you, Tim, is that a lot of people out here who live in this area, who live in these apartments and live in these buildings, they said that they might have heard something, but I spoke with one gentleman named Daniel who told me that really there's something happening here a lot, and so he didn't necessarily think that that there was something big going on. However, obviously there is quite the scene out here. As Blair just mentioned, there are a bunch of activists who were formerly at City Council. Now they have shown up to this area. This is the spot where Portland police then found the victims in this case, a man and a woman who were taken to the hospital. We don't know their condition at this point. Lots of police tape up in this area, and earlier this afternoon, police actually moved some of the tape to cordon off some of the police vehicles as well. There's been a few, I wouldn't say confrontations, but heated discussions between the people who are here, whether they showed up or they live in this area, and some of the officers. But at this time, not a lot of new information from Portland Police or from the FBI about this scene in particular, but we do know that it appears to be very, very active and continuing to be so this evening. Tim, back to you.
All right. Thanks, Alma, very much.
All right, we want to get out to our Devon Haskins as well. He's standing by for us. Devon, what have you learned?
Yeah, we're getting reaction pouring in from local, state, and federal leaders. We've heard from city and federal officials. Let's get right to a statement from Congresswoman Janelle Bynum, who says this isn't law enforcement, it's state-sponsored terrorism. We're also hearing from Democratic senators, both Ron Wyden and Jeff Merkley. Ron Wyden first saying on X, "I'm monitoring the first awful reports of 2 people shot in Portland by federal law enforcement. I'll keep you updated, but Trump's deployment of federal agents in my hometown is clearly inflaming violence and must end." Now to Senator Jeff Merkley, who also wrote on X, huge concern about a reported shooting of 2 individuals by federal agents outside Portland Adventist Hospital. He says, "My team and I are closely monitoring the situation and are working hard to get answers." He adds that he'll share any updates as they learn more. He asked people to please keep protests of Trump's ICE CBP peaceful, as Trump wants to generate riots. Don't take the bait. We've also reached out to Governor Kotek for her response. And again, as these come in, we'll be sure to share more of them with you.
All right, Devon, for that update in the newsroom. Thank you so much. We also want to share a statement that we did get from Mayor Keith Wilson earlier today, actually just within the last hour. He said, quote, "As mayor, I call on ICE to end all operations in Portland until a full investigation can be completed." He went on to say, "I call on every Portlander to represent our values and to show up with calm and purpose during this difficult time. Portland does not respond to violence with violence. We respond with clarity, unity, and a commitment to justice. We must stand together to protect Portland." Again, that's Portland Mayor Keith Wilson.
And one more just coming in from Multnomah County Sheriff Nicole Morrissey O'Donnell, who says, "My thoughts are with those who were injured during the shooting, their families, and anyone who witnessed it. Moments like this can create even greater fear, and I recognize the weight of emotion our country and now our community is carrying."
We are following this closely. Of course, if you're just watching or just tuning in, we are following very ongoing breaking news of a tragic update when we learned 2 people were shot this afternoon by Customs and Border Protection federal agents. Portland police responded first to Adventist Health on the 10,200 block of Southeast Main, and then again along 146 and Burnside, where those 2 people, a man and a woman, were taken to the hospital for treatment. We do not know their conditions at this time.
That's where it stands at the moment. We're going to take a quick break to reset, but we've got Matt Zappino in to get your weather in, and we'll be right back with you on this breaking news story. Matt?
All right, Tim, thank you very much. Of course, the big weather story the last few days has been all the snow in the Cascades, still 22 degrees at Timberline. That's right, 34 inches of snow since it began on Tuesday. So very, very impressive snowfall. Still some snow falling out there right now, as you can see. Here are some other totals for you. Mount Hood Meadows, 32 inches. Skee Bowl, they are opening in the next couple of days for skiing. First time this season, so Skee Bowl getting the lift spinning. Mount Bachelor's open a whole bunch more terrain, and Mount Rainier had nearly 3 feet of snow as well. So this is exactly what we needed. Now the roads, of course, suffer. You can see Government Camp is snow covered. It's nearly 30 degrees there. Santiam Pass is snow covered. Willamette Pass also snow covered. So you need traction tires or chains if you are driving up and through the Cascades. Going forward, though, look, only another couple of inches overnight tonight. And then we're done with precipitation for quite a while. Look at the sky down at Salem right now. Clouds have really broken up. It's 44 degrees. It got cold last night because we cleared out a bit. I'll show you how cold. First Doppler radar, just a few showers coming into the north coast right now and the coast range. But these are going to end as we go into the overnight hours and certainly by tomorrow. The rainfall today has been pretty pretty sporadic in the valleys, just a few hundreds here and there. And I mentioned those morning lows dropped down to 29 in Hillsborough. You might have had some ice on your windshield this morning. The mornings ahead, though, will be a bit warmer because we're going to stay cloudier. You can see all the cloud cover offshore here. That's going to be moving on in. However, high pressure is also building offshore, and that's going to keep us dry, save for some light showers on Sunday. Now, with this high pressure area moving over us, our air pattern is going to become very stagnant. Already there's an air stagnation advisory up for the valleys beginning tomorrow at 10 a.m. and extending into Sunday morning. Very little air movement, no wind, and so everything we put into our air shed, if you will stay there. So the air quality is going to degrade over the next couple of days. Snow showers tonight, but they end, and then we don't completely clear out. We get those scattered high clouds rolling on through, and then about the only precipitation on the horizon. See that offshore Saturday? We'll get a few light showers on Sunday. Not a big deal, a couple of hundreds, and that's it. And then high pressure really builds in middle and end of next week. This should give us light east winds. Our high temperatures are going to be climbing into the mid, even upper 50s by that point, or about 10 degrees warmer than it was today. We had some 50s on the coast, but everybody else quite a bit cooler. 46 right now, freezing level 3,400 feet. All right, then for Portland, showers ending tonight, clouds, some sun tomorrow, high of about 50, lows above freezing though. And then on Sunday, mostly cloudy. Sunday, light showers. Monday, still mostly cloudy, but then it begins to clear up. And look at that, 57 on Tuesday and 55s for Wednesday and Thursday. David, Christine, we're going to toss it back to you.
Good evening, everyone. David Molko and Christine Pitawanich here with you as we continue to follow breaking news in East Portland this evening, where federal agents have shot 2 people. This started around 2 o'clock this afternoon, we understand, near Adventist Hospital. The FBI confirming those agents are Customs and Border Protection agents. Again, 2 injured, a man and a woman. Around 2:30 in the afternoon, police responding to East Burnside. So 15 minutes later, about 3 miles to the east of that, where a man and woman, they say, were found with gunshot wounds. We understand they have survived. They have been transported to the hospital, though no word on their condition.
Right, and that is what we're working to confirm. There is a lot of information rolling in as we speak, but a lot that we do not know this evening. But we do want to take it out to our Catherine Cook right now. She is live at 102nd in Southeast Maine. Although before we get to our Catherine Cook, just in, we have a statement from the Department of Homeland Security.
And this is the first time we're potentially getting some clarity over what happened in the 2 o'clock hour. So this is from DHS spokesperson Tricia McLaughlin. We're reading it for the first time as well. She says, at 2:19, U.S. Border Patrol agents were conducting a targeted vehicle stop in Portland. The passenger of the vehicle and target, this is outside a medical center there, by the way, is a Venezuelan illegal alien, those are her words, affiliated with the transnational Tren de Agua prostitution ring and involved in a recent shooting in Portland.
And this statement goes on to say the vehicle driver is believed to be a member of the vicious Venezuelan gang Tren de Agua. When agents identified themselves to the vehicle occupants, the driver weaponized his vehicle and attempted to run over the law enforcement agents. And they continue. Fearing for his life and safety, an agent fired a defensive shot. The driver drove off with the passenger, fleeing the scene. And of course, they say the situation is evolving as they continue the investigation.
This is the official account, again, from Homeland Security in the last few minutes, saying agents shot them when they weaponized their vehicle and tried to run over the agents. Of course, 24 hours or a little over 24 hours after ICE agents shot and killed a 37-year-old woman in Minneapolis. You can understand why tensions are heightened in the Portland metro and across the country tonight. Of course, there's no word from the FBI, which is officially conducting the investigation here. Portland police also securing the scenes, but we have team coverage out there tonight. Catherine Cook at Adventist Hospital, Alma McCarty and Blair Best on the east side, where they found the man and woman who were shot. Kyla Boshi at Legacy Emmanuel Hospital, John Adams as well on the south waterfront outside the ICE facility. By and large, we should mention before we head out to our reporters, leaders across the Portland metro, state, federal, city, condemning what's happened today, although again, the information is just coming in and calling for peaceful protest, not violence at this point.
And with that, we'll go out to our Catherine Cook first. She is live in Southeast Portland near Adventist Hospital at 102nd Southeast Maine. This, where she is right now, is where this all started at about 2:15. Catherine, give us the rundown. What have you learned?
Christine and David, a lot of folks have been waiting for that update from federal officials. Certainly folks out here wondering what happened, how they ended up here. As this comes into focus, though, still many questions remain about the choices behind those federal responses. Behind us, the FBI, you can see their mobile unit is set up as they are the lead on this investigation. With that said, Portland Police is also out here. Multnomah County DA Nathan Vasquez made a stop through here just a few moments ago, again, to sort of keep boots on the ground, but also clarify that their involvement is really on the periphery. It is a federal investigation, but certainly Portland Police were involved in terms of the response to those who were shot. David and Christine, as you mentioned, after the shooting here, we are told that the two people who were shot, a man and a woman, drove to 146th and East Burnside. I checked, it's 2.7 miles away from here. And at that point, Portland Police responded. They rendered aid to the two people, applying a tourniquet even, and then those two people who were shot were taken to a local hospital where tonight we do not know their condition. We're waiting for that, and we're waiting for more clarity again on sort of the targeted investigation. As you say, federal officials have said that this was a quote illegal alien from Venezuela, part of a prostitution ring. Again, these are all very new pieces of information coming through at this hour, but certainly folks out here less concerned about the details of why, but more very frustrated, angry over what happened here. Again, right after what happened in Minneapolis. Portland Mayor Keith Wilson asking for people to remain calm, remain peaceful. Multiple lawmakers asking for the same thing while condemning the shooting. And certainly out here, the FBI conducting their investigation where this all started this afternoon. Back to you.
Catherine, can you just give us a sense of what you're seeing in terms of what the FBI is doing on the ground? Because Homeland Security is saying the driver of this car weaponized his vehicle. We've seen a black Hyundai sedan there behind police tape behind you. Is there any sense of how many shots were potentially fired? If there are other vehicles involved, are you seeing evidence markers, debris? Just give us a sense of what you can see and what you can't see.
Those are great questions, David. We're also very curious about that. We can't get close enough to answer those questions directly at this hour. Certainly federal agents keeping everyone at more than an arm's length away. Certainly questions around the car, but also a question of what car did the two people take to reach East Burnside? Was it a different car? So definitely a lot of unanswered questions. We don't want to speculate tonight, but we are keeping a close eye from as far back as we can. Again, federal officials here, the FBI, lead on this investigation with their mobile command unit. Lots of crime tape. We are where we can be at this hour, but certainly we'll update you with more information as it becomes available.
Yeah, appreciate you keeping an eye on the scene there at 102nd in Southeast Maine, where this all began. We'll check in with you momentarily. Thank you, Catherine. Now we want to get to our Alma McCarty, who is live at Northeast 146th Avenue and East Burnside. This is about 3 miles or so from that first location that Catherine's at. Alma, what can you tell us?
Christine, I can tell you that there are a lot of people who are on scene here who were not on scene previously. We've got a lot of activists who are in the area really trying to see what is happening. We have some people who are streaming on their cameras, and then we also have some neighbors who are arriving here for the first time and going, what happened? I'm going to step out of the way, give you a kind of a look at what's going on. From what I understand, the investigators who were on the scene here, they were taking some pictures in this area beyond the fence. So it appears as though a lot of the investigation is focused on an apartment complex on the far side. This, again, 146th, Northeast 146th and East Burnside. The police presence has been consistent. There hasn't been more police who have shown up or anything. I'm going to have my photographer Kyle kind of pan over to Burnside, where there is some more police activity. Again, lots of crime tape, lots of people people just trying to figure out what is going on here this evening. Again, this is the spot where Portland police say that those two victims arrived at after the shooting. So they presumably drove themselves from that location where Catherine is at over to this location and then called for help. We do not know the condition of the man and the woman who were taken to the hospital. I think a lot of people out here want to know that as well. Just a lot of questions at this point, not too many answers, but I can tell you that this investigation is certainly active, certainly ongoing. A lot of Portland police, and we did see FBI earlier. If you take a look, Kyle's going to zoom in. You can see that there are some people who are actively investigating, again, in front of an apartment complex, an apartment unit, but we're not entirely sure what they are doing at this time. As soon as we find out more details, David, Christine, we will be sure to let you know.
Alma, I know you've been there for maybe a little over an hour or so, and you mentioned the crowd that has grown. Can you give us a sense of just how many people have shown up, how many people are there? I assume most of them may be looky-loos at some point, but can you just kind of give us a sense of what you're seeing on the ground?
Yeah, Christine, what we're seeing, I would say it's less looky-loos and more people who are deeply concerned. A lot of these people we actually met and talked to yesterday at the rallies that were happening for Renee Nicole Good within the city of Portland. So a lot of people just concerned that this is happening a day after what happened in Minneapolis in terms of federal agents using deadly force against two people within the city. So there's people who are very concerned about that. There's obviously the people who live in the apartments around here. Some of them are more curious than others. Others are just like, hey, I'm trying to get past the police tape and back into my home this evening. I would tell you probably about 60 or so. And there are several journalists, of course, on the ground, whether they are, crews like ours. We did see a few, it seems to be influencers and some other people who are just filming the scene as it is unfolding out here. Things are not too rowdy at this moment. It was touch and go for a second with an interaction between Portland police and a man who was just really frustrated with the situation earlier, but nothing that escalated. And at this point, it's just a pretty calm, content scene, and people are just observing what is going on, which at this point, unfortunately, not too much new information to bring you.
All right, Alma McCarty on East Burnside there. I want to hop over. Blair Best also in that neighborhood where the shooting victims, a man and a woman, were found as well. But we believe they're still in the hospital recovering from their injuries, trying to get an update on their condition. Blair, before I bring you in here, I just want to reiterate something Mayor Keith Wilson has said this afternoon. Again, this transpiring over the past few hours here, calling for calm. This is part of a statement. He says, I call on every Portlander to represent our values and to show up with calm and purpose during this difficult time. Is that what you're hearing and seeing on the ground right now?
As things stand right now in this location, things are calm. People do have purpose, but also people are upset. They're angry. Some people on the verge of tears. And as we speak, protesters are planning their next move. Joining me now live is Holly Brown. She is the leader of a local protest group. Holly, what is your plan for tonight?
Yeah, so tonight we are going to be meeting at the ICE facility at 7 p.m. We're going to be protesting against ICE there. We're going to be standing against their violent actions here in Portland today. We're going to be demanding that the ICE agent who shot these people is arrested, and we're going to be fighting back.
We have heard repeatedly from Portland Mayor Keith Wilson and Chief Bob Day that they want peace. They want people to protest peacefully and not, quote, take the bait from the Trump administration. Do you agree with that? Is that how you guys will approach tonight?
I mean, I think that ship has sailed. They shot people in Portland today. We're not going to go out there and do something crazy, but we have to fight back. And quite frankly, saying that people should stand down, should avoid, going up against ICE right now is actually super dangerous, because when they do things like this, we have to show them that we will not let it stand in Portland, and we're not going to be silent.
But you'll do so peacefully.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to go there. We're going to raise our voices. We're going to stand against violence here in Portland, and we're going to make sure everybody is safe while we're doing that.
Okay, Holly, thank you.
Yeah, of course.
We'll continue to monitor the situation out here and down at the ICE facility. But for now, we'll toss it back to you.
All right, Blair, I appreciate you giving us a firsthand perspective of someone on the ground and reacting to this news. Thanks so much.
And also, Justin, we've heard that at 6 p.m., Portland police plan to host a news conference. We plan to be there as well, and we'll bring it to you live as soon as we get there. Also, as we talk about Portland Police, Chief Bob Day asking the community to stay calm as they help with the investigation.
Important to note here, the FBI is running this investigation. That news conference, by the way, the governor, the mayor, and the police chief are all going to be there around 6 o'clock this evening, so we should get potentially some context and an update there. It's just interesting as we hear from Homeland Security saying that this was a targeted vehicle stop, that the passenger of the vehicle was a Venezuelan illegal alien. These are their words, affiliated with a prostitution ring. The driver was believed to be a Venezuelan gang member. These are sort of the language terms we often see in Homeland Security statements here. But important to note that they are saying when agents identified themselves, again, these are Customs and Border Protection agents, the driver weaponized his vehicle and attempted to run them over. The agent fired a defensive shot. The driver drove off with his passenger. A little bit of an inconsistency in the statement, considering we understand both people were shot. So in theory, two people could be hit by one bullet, but that's one of the questions we're going to be trying to answer over the next few hours, including the condition of the victims right now.
That's true, and we don't know exactly where they are. However, we do know that earlier today, Legacy Emanuel was put down into lockdown, and that's where we find our Kyle Laboshi this evening. Kyle, if you can hear us, what are you seeing on the ground? I know earlier you said things seemed quieter than usual.
Indeed, there was a heavy police presence early on out here, in all likelihood for crowd control, but many of those officers have now left. As you pointed out, we reached out to Legacy Emanuel earlier today and throughout the afternoon and early evening, looking for any confirmation on the number of patients that were transported here and their condition. So far, we have not heard back. We were also told earlier today they were in lockdown, and we've not received any information officially from Legacy Emanuel. Behind me, you can see the emergency entrance here at Legacy Emanuel Hospital. This is a level 1 trauma center, so oftentimes in dire situations, serious injuries, this is where the patients come. We have seen some ambulances arrive, although none with lights and sirens since we've been here for the past hour or so. We've also seen police officers and also hospital security roaming about. We hear in the distance what sounds like some protest activity, and we've seen a few people, maybe half dozen at most, kind of wandering outside the perimeter of the hospital. Although we are standing on the sidewalk outside of Legacy Emanuel property, which is typically protocol, and that they ask us to stay back. So far, though, we've gotten no official word from Legacy Emanuel as we continue to wait for any type of update on how many patients were transported and are being treated here. Once we get that information, we'll pass it along to you.
You keeping us updated on what you're seeing and what you're hearing there at Legacy Emanuel in North Portland. Thank you, Kyle. And as he was saying, we don't know the conditions of the two people shot. What we do know is that around 2:30, a man did call for help. When police responded, they found two people, a man and a woman with gunshot wounds. And at that point, officers apparently applied a tourniquet. Then they took those two people to the hospital, and we'll continue to monitor where they might be, what their conditions might be as this story develops.
Homeland Security saying the driver of a vehicle, the start started with a vehicle around that medical center at Venice Health, and saying the driver tried to run over law enforcement agents during that targeted stop, and that's when agents opened fire. That's the official line from Homeland Security this evening. Obviously sensitive considering the context of everything that's happened in the 24 hours, especially in Minneapolis, where an ICE agent shot and killed a 37-year-old woman. That investigation also in its early stages. But I want to bring in John Adams on the South Waterfront outside the ICE facility, which, John, has been a bit of a flashpoint over the last few months, of course, with the president trying to bring in the National Guard to calm things down, a judge basically blocking the president from doing that. President Trump within the last few weeks saying he was going to back off, and now this, but calls again, John, for calm across the city. What are you seeing right now?
Well, David, a flashpoint, I would say, is a great way to describe what this facility has been throughout the last 6-7 months or so. But as of right now, we see about 15 people, 15, maybe 20 at most, protesters out here. Most of them have arrived within the last hour since we got on scene here around 4 o'clock. There are only about 5 people here at this time. I'm going to go ahead and step out of the way so you can see what's going on in front of the facility. And what we have seen is right now is typical of what we've seen a lot of times we've been down here so far this year. You see people in costumes. You see people with American flags, with signs, folks with megaphones, folks playing music. We have seen the gate of the facility open one time to let a vehicle out of the facility, and at that point people usually start yelling at the folks in that vehicle. But what we have not seen so far out here tonight, we have not seen any federal agents come out of the building to come up to protesters. We have not seen any protesters in the road blocking traffic. You know, this is typically a very busy time of day traffic-wise here, with a lot of cars coming in and out of this section of the waterfront area. Thus far, we have not seen any interruptions in traffic coming in and out of the facility. Protesters have lined sections of the sidewalk with what it looks like to be candles or some sort of lights or something like that. But as of right now, we have not seen this entire section of the street shut down like we have seen at times so far this year. So we'll continue to monitor what's going on right now, but I would describe what we're seeing here right now as about 15 to 20 people protesting peacefully outside the facility. Back to you.
I saw a dancing bumblebee behind you, the inflatable costume, still part of it. Let's hope it stays calm and continues that way through the evening. Appreciate it, John. Well, reaction's been pouring in from local, state, and federal leaders as we speak.
Our Devon Haskins has been tracking all of that from the newsroom. Devon, give us a rundown on what you're hearing.
Yeah, guys, the latest response coming from Multnomah County Sheriff Nicole Morrissey O'Donnell. She says she's monitoring the situation and sent us this statement that said, quote, "My thoughts are with those who were injured during this shooting, their families, and anyone who witnessed it. Moments like this can create even greater fear, and I recognize the weight of emotion our country and now our community is carrying right now." She goes on to say that as sheriff, she supports the community's right to peacefully and lawfully assemble. If people choose to gather, we ask that it be done lawfully and safely. Portland's Police Chief Bob Day also issuing a statement saying, "We understand the heightened emotion and tension many are feeling in the wake of the shooting in Minneapolis, but I'm asking the community to remain calm as we work to learn more." Again, that coming from Chief Bob Day. We're closely looking for any other statements that come in from local, state, or federal officials. And as they do, we will pass those along. Back to you guys.
Okay. All right, Devon Haskins in the newsroom. I mean, the reaction just coming in minute to minute and largely condemning the actions. I mean, it is early. While Homeland Security says shots were fired defensively and 2 people were injured, you have a lot of people jumping to other conclusions. But I have to mention, we have not seen any of the evidence here. We just have statements and pieces and attention around a vehicle and 2 people who are injured. So we just have to caution that as well, that this is going to take time, and it's going to take time for the details to come out, to get some clarity and to confirm what's actually occurred here.
Right. To that point, we don't know what led up to this altercation. We don't know the circumstances, but the information just keeps coming out slowly. And as it does, people are weighing in, including our local city councilors. Our Selene Stevens is live in downtown Portland at City Hall. Selene, I know you've had an opportunity to talk to a number of our city councilors about what happened today.
Christine, I did. And, you know, I was here at City Hall when we first learned that there was an emergency in the city of Portland. So I was here. There were around 10 or so protesters that were actually going into City Hall to try and talk to Mayor Wilson about that ICE facility. They were talking about the land use violation and all the back and forth with that. And there were people that were telling me that inaction could lead to someone dying or being injured by federal agents, like what we saw in Minneapolis. And so they went up the stairs. We went up the stairs with them. And when they got to the office, a constituent consultant came out and told them the mayor would not be able to meet with them because there was an emergency. And that was the first time that we had heard about that. And they said it was an emergency involving ICE. And I'll tell you then, we didn't have any idea what that emergency was tied to, but people immediately started to assume that somebody had been hurt by a federal agent. And so we also learned at that time that the city council, they were in the chambers, that they went into recess. And then, of course, around an hour or so later, we learned that 2 people had been shot. And so I spoke with a few city councilors today, including Councilor Canal, and here's what he had to say.
Yeah, horrified, not surprised, and outraged. We've been talking about ICE and its activities, its lawlessness for months now. And actually, this is a conversation that goes back years. And it's just a matter of time until something like this happened here, until the federal government reins in this force and takes it apart. We will not have an end to the violence.
Is this something that you, obviously we saw this in Minneapolis yesterday, is this something that you expected or you never thought it would get to this extent here at home?
I absolutely thought it was possible. That's why we've been working on legislation to try and rein in this government as it operates here for a number of months now. Yesterday, I thought about Minneapolis. I was in Minneapolis in October and met a lot of the local leaders there. Drove on Portland Avenue, actually, where the shooting happened, and I'm keeping the families of Renee and Nicole Good in Minneapolis and our 2 Portlanders who are injured right now in my thoughts.
When you talk about reining in how the government operates here, are you able to specify what exactly you mean in terms of that?
In terms of what we can do and in terms of what the federal government can do are 2 different things. We have to talk about ensuring that federal agents are not masked when they operate in the city limits of Portland. But broadly speaking, the federal government has a responsibility to take apart ICE brick by brick.
And just sort of last thing, speaking, there are Portlanders here that were rallying when we learned of the news. They were trying to meet with Mayor Wilson regarding the ICE facility, and they were told he couldn't come out because of this emergency situation, and we learned about all this unfolding right before our eyes. So to the Portlanders that were already, they said they felt like, inaction would lead to something like this. And now, obviously, there has been an incident. I mean, what do you have to say to people that, have been protesting at the ICE facility here, are going to continue? What do you have to say to those people?
I'm proud of them. I'm proud of our Portlanders for standing up for the human rights of every person in this country. And I'm proud of them for doing so in a way that's overwhelmingly peaceful and grounded in our values here as a city.
I just want to go back to that statement that we got from Mayor Wilson a bit after that, once we learned what had happened, and one of his last lines saying, "As mayor, I call on ICE to end all operations in Portland until a full investigation can be completed." Of course, we need some clarity on what exactly that means, but here at City Hall, there's a few people already starting to gather with flags and whatnot. Not a lot of people, there's no rallying or chanting yet, but as it's gotten dark, there have been people that have started to gather here, but it's been a pretty quiet scene as of yet, and of course, we'll continue to keep you all updated. Back to you.
Selene Stevens outside City Hall. Appreciate your reporting. A couple of the unanswered questions at this hour, and there are many considering this developed around 2:15 in the afternoon. What we're about 3 hours later, 5:15. The condition of the 2 people who were shot by Customs and Border Protection agents. We believe they're in the hospital. No word on their condition. And also if the shooting was in fact justified. That's a legal term, of course. Homeland Security saying, yes, it was. It was a targeted vehicle stop. They tried to run agents over, and agents fired a defensive shot. That's a direct quote from a DHS spokesperson there.
Yeah, they said the agent feared for his life and safety before firing that defensive shot. But tonight we're also really interested in hearing from law enforcement about the shooting. Let's bring in our Evan Watson now, who's in the newsroom. Evan, help us put this into context a bit more. You spoke with a former FBI agent.
I did just about 20 minutes or so ago. I spoke with Brian Dugan, a former FBI agent who also trained federal officers. He called this situation terrible and tragic for everyone involved and explained how a use of force investigation will unfold from here following federal rules of evidence, meaning there won't be many public updates on the investigation side of things. But importantly, I asked Dugan about the timing and context of this shooting just a day after yesterday's shooting in Minnesota involving federal agents and immigration enforcement. Dugan said from his perspective, this is a product of escalated enforcement that he said is putting everyone in harm's way, increasing the chances of dangerous situations and bad outcomes.
We're trying to go after more violent offenders and or effectuate more immigration arrests. That means there's just a lot more contact in an operational sense, and especially when there's a lot more unknowns. It's making a tinderbox for both the law enforcement professionals and the citizenry. It's just more activity, more operations. It's just heightened awareness, heightened anxiety on both sides. And unfortunately, these things are going to happen probably more often. It's a faster pace. It's less preparation. It's just kind of shooting, moving out there to get to numbers. I would like to see like a pause, like just kind of like, let's take a breath. Let's do a safety pause. Let's do a moment where we kind of make sure we're doing things the right way.
Dugan mentioned multiple times to me that point about the pace of immigration enforcement, looking at how frequently officers are trying to make stops and make arrests, make quotas for how many people they are looking to stop and arrest in different situations. And he seemed to emphasize from his perspective, a former federal agent, that having that kind of pace, having that kind of increased, enhanced enforcement is creating situations that could be very dangerous, which is why he made that point about looking for a pause, looking for something that if he was in charge, he'd like to step things back when you look at the context of this nationally. Back to you.
Appreciate you taking the time to talk to that former FBI agent. Evan Watson reporting for us. Thank you, Evan.
All right, and speaking of the FBI, which is the investigating authority on this shooting, again, 2 Customs and Border Protection agents, I shouldn't say 2, we believe multiple agents fired shots. Homeland Security saying 1 shot was fired, but the statements are sort of muddled, and we imagine we'll get some clarity here. The FBI, the investigating authority, just releasing an updated statement here. Here's what it says. FBI Portland is investigating an assault on federal officers that happened at about 2:15 in Portland involving 2 Customs and Border Protection agents. The 2 assailants, these are the words in the statement, fled the scene immediately following the shooting and are currently being treated for their injuries. It remains an active and an ongoing investigation led by the FBI here. Again, FBI Portland saying this was an assault on federal officers.
And just minutes ago also, Multnomah County Board of Commissioners, they released a statement as well saying they're trying to learn everything they can. They're encouraging patience because they're trying to learn everything they can to ensure accuracy. They say, quote, "What we can say now is enough is enough. The terror and violence ICE is causing in our neighborhoods must end now." Again, this all coming after DHS made a statement saying that their agent feared for his life, that he was conducting a targeted vehicle stop.
Well, what's interesting too, in the statement you just mentioned from county commissioners, it's unified. The chair's on there and all 4 commissioners are on the same page, right? There's a lot of divisiveness sometimes in Portland politics and city council and the county board and people who don't often agree on issues. But in this case, it seems there is a lot of unity on this, above everything, calling for calm, calling for transparency, and calling for peace as the details still come in here.
Absolutely.
I want to bring in Chief Meteorologist Matt Zaffino now. We're going to take a quick pause, take a look at your forecast over the next few days. We'll bring you up to speed on the latest in just a few minutes. Matt?
All right, David, thanks very much. Of course, the big weather story has been all the snow in the Cascades, and you can see there's piles of it, and there's still snow falling. There's still snow in the air. It's 23 degrees, and that's correct. 34 inches of snow since it began on Tuesday. So this is exactly the kind of snowfall we needed. We're not going to catch up to average with just this one snowfall, but boy, it's looking a lot better on the mountain in terms of our snowpack and certainly for skiers and snowboarders. Mount Hood Meadows also 32 inches. Ski Bowl 21 inches. They are opening for the season for the first time, I believe, tomorrow, certainly this weekend. So the list will be spinning at Ski Bowl. You can ski there. Mount Bachelor is opening, way more terrain than they had just a week ago. And up on Mount Rainier at Paradise Ranger Station, also nearly 3 feet of snow. So it has been good. The roads have not been great, though, as you would expect. They're covered with snow. ODOT doing their best, 29 degrees there. And you can see Government Camp snow covered, Santiam Pass snow covered, and Willamette Pass also snow covered. None of that should be surprising, and you don't want to be surprised if you're traveling up and through the Cascades. You will need traction tires or chains. Make sure you're prepared, maybe have an emergency kit as well. Now, going forward, just an inch or 2. That's it. And then our snowstorm will be over. Still a little bit of light left in the sky down in Salem. The clouds broke up this afternoon. Good to see the sun. We climbed into the 40s. There are still a few showers left out there, but not that many. Mainly, they're getting lifted as they hit the coast range. These are all going to end overnight tonight, and then we will be dry. Now, the rainfall in the valley today has been pretty minimal, as you can see. Really not that much anywhere around town. 100th in Hood River, 700th over in Tillamook, everybody else in between that. It was cold this morning. Ice on my windshield. You might have had it too. 29 in Hillsborough, 36 in Portland, but the mornings ahead won't be as cold because we're going to see cloud cover come in from the west, and that's going to help to keep our temperatures elevated a bit. It may get cold enough for some frost tomorrow morning in parts of the valley, and what will happen is this. There's an air stagnation advisory for deteriorating air quality because there'll be very little movement in our air. There's going to be very light winds for several days. So again, the air quality is going to begin to take a hit. So keep that in mind if you have respiratory concerns. 47 our high today in Portland. That's right about average for the state. A couple 50s on the coast. Everybody else in the 30s and 40s. We're at 46 right now and cloudy, and the freezing level 3,400 feet. So look for those last few showers to wind down tonight. Couple of inches of snow in the Cascades. Otherwise, it ends there as well. And look at the 7-day forecast. We'll see lows above freezing. The weekend, mostly cloudy and maybe a few light showers with a weak system on Sunday. But otherwise, by the middle of next week, our highs are climbing into the mid-50s. So Big turnaround. If you're worried about our new snowpack that we got, don't worry. It's not going anywhere. It's not going to get rained on. The sun angle very low this time of the year. So we will preserve what we just picked up, which has been great, guys.
Okay, thank you so much, Matt.
All right, if you are just joining us here on KGW News, we are following breaking news in East Portland where federal agents shot 2 people this afternoon. Police say a man and a woman were hit and wounded. Right now, authorities have not been able to confirm their conditions. We understand it was Customs and Border Protection agents involved in the shooting. That's according to Homeland Security, who says this was a targeted vehicle stop with the driver trying to weaponize his vehicle. This was outside a medical center, and that is where an agent fired a defensive shot.
And of course, this is coming one day after an ICE agent shot and killed a woman in Minneapolis. Now, shots were fired around 2:15 this afternoon near Adventist Hospital on Southeast Main Street near 102nd. Police say a man who had been shot then called for help from Northeast 146th and East Burnside. That was about 3 or so miles from that first location. That's where officers found both a man and a woman shot. Again, this evening, their conditions are unknown. We also have a statement from the Department of Homeland Security Assistant Secretary Tricia McLaughlin. As David mentioned, U.S. Border Patrol agents doing a targeted vehicle stop. She adds the passenger of the vehicle and target is a Venezuelan illegal alien affiliated with the transnational Tren de Aragua prostitution ring and involved in a recent shooting in Portland. She continued, the vehicle driver is believed to be a member of the vicious Venezuelan gang Tren de Agua. When agents identified themselves to the vehicle occupants, the driver weaponized his vehicle and attempted to run over the law enforcement agents. Fearing for his life and safety, the DHS spokesperson says an agent fired a defensive shot. The driver drove off with the passenger fleeing the scene.
We have reporters spread out across the city tonight as new information and reaction comes in. I want to bring in Catherine Cook live near the shooting scene at Adventist Hospital. Catherine, before we get you going, we have some brand new reporting here from NBC News. I just want to fill folks in here. It says 2 law enforcement sources familiar tell NBC News the agent-involved shooting was part of a targeted operation. A source specifying the agents were part of a special operation dubbed Operation Oregon.
And apparently they stopped what they're saying is a red Toyota, which is a bit different than what we've seen pictures of, which was a black Kia Hyundai.
We've seen a Hyundai at the scene, a black Hyundai sedan. So now agents stopping a red Toyota whose driver attempted to flee, striking an unidentified agent here.
Yeah, the individuals in that vehicle, a 33-year-old male and a 32-year-old female, treated for injuries at a local hospital. This NBC News report says the sources described the individuals as suspected Venezuelan TDA gang members and associates. Let's go back out to our Catherine Cook live at that location at 102nd Southeast Main near Adventist Hospital. Catherine, can you give us any sense of this discrepancy here? Because we've been talking about a black car, but then we're hearing from our NBC News sources about a red Toyota.
Well, guys, I think this is a perfect example of the fluidity. First of all, a little disclaimer here. We've got some protesters out here who are yelling expletives, so apologies in advance for that. Back to what I was saying, though, I think this is an example of the fluidity of the details coming out in this case. Minute by minute, we're learning details that we didn't know before. Certainly, we don't want to jump to any conclusions about cars involved, and certainly there may be new information about the vehicles involved coming out in the next half an hour. But what we can tell you is it all started here. The agents, we're told, shot the 2 people here in the parking lot area. They were able to drive themselves about 3 miles away to East Burnside and 146th. But again, this is all a very fluid situation, so we'll bring you some more information as we get it. Back to you.
Okay, Catherine Cook reporting live there near Adventist Hospital. You can see some people definitely feeling heated, angry about the situation and protesting
and
already.
Eager to make their voices and opinions heard, which everyone has the right to do peacefully. Again, by and large, I should say, state, federal, local officials all calling for calm in the wake of this as the details come in. I want to bring in Blair Best near the other scene here, about 3 miles east East Burnside and 146 because the two people, again, Blair, we have just learned, according to NBC News sources, the individuals are a man who's 33, a woman who is 32 years old, who are in the hospital. Homeland Security saying they are suspected Venezuelan gang members are associates. Homeland Security saying it was a targeted vehicle stop and a single agent fired at the car as well. You're at the location where these two people were found, or they or someone close to them called for help. What are you learning right now?
So, David, I can tell you from talking with people who live in this neighborhood, they tell me it is a working class neighborhood and that many immigrants live here. It is a residential area. We're surrounded by apartment buildings. Take a look. This entire block is taped off with police tape. There's about a half a dozen police cruisers here. Portland police officers have formed a line blocking entrance to these apartment complexes. And the energy here is relatively calm. Neighbors are out of their homes, watching what happened, trying to figure out more details, but they're upset. Some people on the verge of tears. We actually talked with a man who lives just a few doors down, and here's what he had to say earlier today.
I am beyond angry that this is happening the day after they killed that woman. I mean, this has gone too far. This is beyond voting. We need to do something. Like, the people need to do something. This is ridiculous.
You can really feel the emotion in that man's voice, and that's what we're hearing from many people who live in this neighborhood. Again, this is where officers found the two people who were shot by federal agents. They were shot in that hospital parking lot where Catherine was, and they drove here and called for help. Now, westbound between Northeast 145th Avenue and Northeast 148th Avenue is closed. And I also talked with protesters tonight. Many protesters were here gathering, but I was told just about 30 minutes ago that they are now headed to the ICE facility on the South Portland waterfront. They claim they're going to protest peacefully, but again, they're angry. And just a few minutes ago, there were some white vans from Portland Police and about a dozen.
All right, having a little trouble with Blair's audio there, but appreciate her reporting. She's on East Burnside there. Again, two locations here. One, the shooting scene near a medical center. This is just in southeast Portland, just east of I-205 near Mall 205 and about 3 miles east Burnside to 146, where the two people, we understand, a 33-year-old man and 32-year-old woman, shot, it appears, by a single federal agent, according to NBC News and DHS Homeland Security, shot by a single federal agent. Hospitalized, recovering from their injuries. As far as we know, both are still alive. But again, we do not have an update on their condition or any information other than those ages about their identities.
You heard Blair talk about the protesters on scene where she is at, how they're headed to the ICE facility, that they're angry. Again, Chief Bob Day of Portland Police asking the community to, quote, remain calm as we work to learn more. That is something that we've heard across the board from officials. Also, Mayor Keith Wilson saying very much the same thing, calling on, quote, every Portlander to represent our values and to show up with calm and purpose during this difficult time. Speaking of our city leaders, our Selene Stevens is live downtown at City Hall. She's been able to talk to a number of counselors. Selene, can you hear us right now? And if so, tell us what you've been hearing. And it looks like you might have a live interview here too.
Christine, I do, yeah. I'm here outside of City Hall with Olivia with the Democratic Socialists of America, and she's the organizer of a rally that's actually going to be kicking off in front of City Hall. And so, Olivia, I mean, you tell me, what do you plan to do here tonight? We have a small group so far. What's your plan for tonight?
We are planning to have a vigil and a rally to protest against what ICE is doing, which is essentially a hostile takeover of our cities. ICE has declared war on our cities, and we want to see full non-compliance at every level of government.
So you organized this pretty quickly. We just found out about this news obviously a few hours ago now. What was your reaction when you learned that federal agents had seemingly shot a man and a woman here on the streets of Portland?
It was horrifying, but it wasn't surprising. I mean, we saw what just happened yesterday in Minneapolis, where they shot a woman point blank in the face. for driving. And I think it was only a matter of time before it happened elsewhere, because we have seen again and again ICE agents come out with guns drawn. They are itching for a fight. They are invading our cities, and it was only a matter of time before that escalated into more violence.
I know you say it was only a matter of time, so does that mean that you pretty much expected something like this to happen at some point?
Absolutely. Their whole mandate is to come into our communities and terrorize us, and that is what they have effectively done.
All right, and just sort of last thing, as we heard from DHS, they are saying that these two people involved in this shooting were from Venezuela, and they were they had gang affiliations. And so, when you hear that and sort of as to justify what happened here, what do you think?
That is a complete deflection of what happened today. What happened today was attempted murder, and we should be issuing arrest warrants for the ICE agents that attempted murder today.
All right, so how long are you guys going to be out here tonight?
Unclear.
Okay, you said
Starting
it's a vigil
at 6,
and a rally.
We'll have a vigil and a rally, probably around an hour.
All right, thank you, Olivia. And so obviously around Portland, people are gathering to either protest or have vigils about what happened here just a few hours ago. And obviously information is still limited. Things are still coming out almost minute by minute, but we'll be out here and seeing what the turnout's like. So for right now, back to you guys.
Thanks, Selene Stevens at City Hall. I just have to push back on a little bit of that interview there with the Democratic Socialists of America, because the truth is at this point, 3 hours in, this happened around 2:15 this afternoon in East Portland, we do not have those answers. Homeland Security saying this was a targeted vehicle stop and the driver weaponized his vehicle. That's when an agent fired a shot, fearing for his life and safety. NBC News reporting echoing that, saying agent stopped a red Toyota whose driver attempted to flee, striking the agent. The agent fired at the vehicle. So at this point, the official response from Homeland Security, as well as some of NBC News reporting, seems to start to paint a picture that the shots may have been fired in self-defense. Again, it is early, and as we saw with Minnesota, you could expect witness accounts, video to trickle out. All of those, the FBI leading this investigation, hoping to get clarity as the evening sort of develops here.
Yeah, so important to stress calm in this situation because of what you said, the information slowly trickling out, limited information at that, but the more we know, it'll
But you can
clear.
Understand why emotions are high, not only in Portland and across the country, given the death of the 37-year-old woman, Renee Good, in Minneapolis yesterday, and federal officials leading that investigation as well, and a sort of heightened rhetoric in a woman who lost her life there. Again, the two people here, a 33-year-old man and 32-year-old woman, according to NBC News, in hospital. We do not know their conditions at this time.
And speaking of what happened in Minneapolis a day ago, let's bring in our Stephanie Domerat. Stephanie, what's the latest there?
Well, protests did continue in Minneapolis today. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz has the National Guard staged, ready to intervene if things get violent. So far, they have stayed largely peaceful, aside from a few isolated clashes with federal agents. Now, yesterday, 37-year-old Renee Good was fatally shot by an ICE agent during an immigration operation. This sparked national outrage and protests in several cities, including here in Portland last night and into today. Federal officials say there is an ongoing investigation into the Minnesota shooting, but Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem and Vice President J.D. Vance both say the ICE officer was shooting in self-defense. Governor Walz is calling for people in other cities, including here in Portland, to stand with Minneapolis.
And I will let those that want to push out false narratives, to slander or defame Renee Good, Minnesotans will tell her life story. Minnesotans will be there to defend her honor.
And of course, that sound was from before these shootings that happened in Portland this afternoon. Meanwhile, Mayor Wilson shared his support for Minnesotans earlier today. Again, before these shootings happened in Portland, he wrote, quote, "Portland stands with you, Minnesota. I warned Homeland Security leadership that their actions constituted a disaster in the making. Yesterday's horrific loss of life is the direct consequence of ignoring that warning. Making no mistake, this death was entirely preventable." Again, him speaking about that death in Minnesota. The ICE agent at the center of that shooting has been identified. His name is Jonathan Ross. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem says he was involved in a separate incident last summer where he was dragged by a car and injured while trying to arrest a sex offender. Governor Walz says the FBI has shut state officials out of that investigation into that shooting. David and Christine.
possibly raises questions about the transparency of the federal investigation on the ground there. Steph, thanks. I appreciate the update there.
And now we want to go to our Alma McCarty. She's live at Northeast 146th Avenue and East Burnside. To be clear, this is the second location where officers showed up to find a man and a woman shot. Alma, what can you tell us?
Yeah, David, Christine, I can tell you that at this moment it seems to be like a growing crowd, people who are interested in what is going on at this scene. I'm going to have my photographer Kyle kind of pan over to what we have been watching, which is some of the activity beyond the police tape, focused in on an apartment just in front of an apartment. We're not sure if they are in the parking lot there or in front of the door, but really focused in on this in terms of like taking pictures. We've seen FBI over here, investigators just kind of looking into what is going on. Again, like you said, this is really the second location. This is where the man and woman who were shot kind of ended up before calling Portland police. We are not sure what their situation is, what their condition is at this time, but we understand that they are both in the hospital. Now, I spoke with several people who live in this area who were arriving home from work or wanted to check out like what was going on, and they said that there has actually been a decent amount of ICE activity that has happened within the last several weeks within this area. So it's not the first time that they've heard of some sort of an ICE interaction with the public, something that really upsets some of the community and what have you. I also spoke with a neighbor who lives down the block who said that they heard some of the sirens, the activity. They were able to speak with Portland police at the time, who said that this was, where those two people had ended up, and they were being taken at that time to the hospital in an ambulance. And just a lot of heartbreak, I will say, in the conversations that I've had with people. Some people are pretty numb. They don't know how to take in what has happened. Other people are just, truly, truly outraged and truly heartbroken that a day after what happened in Minneapolis is happening here in the Rose City. So at this point, the investigation on this scene, at this location, it is still very much ongoing, very active. There are some police liaison officers in the area to speak with some of the activists who have shown up. We also saw a pretty large police presence further down the block. We weren't sure exactly what they were getting ready to do, but that's what I can tell you about the situation out here this evening. We'll of course be keeping our eyes on the ground, speaking with some more people about what they have seen, what they have heard. But again, I can tell you that the general feeling out here is just heartbreak and really outrage over what happened.
And
heartbreak and outrage there. I imagine a little bit of shock as well, all things considered. That's Alma McCarty on East Burnside, 146 in the Hazelwood neighborhood. Reaction just pouring in as we speak from local, state, and federal leaders here.
Our Devon Haskins is tracking that from the newsroom. Devon, what have you been hearing?
Yeah, David and Christine, we've heard from several politicians in the wake of this afternoon shooting here in Portland, and the latest response coming in from Multnomah County commissioners saying they're trying to learn what they can by their law enforcement partners, writing in part, quote, "What we can say now is enough is enough. The terror and violence ICE is causing in our neighborhoods must end now. The county will not stand by as the federal government attacks our neighbors." Goes on to say, "We stand united in our support for our immigrant and refugee neighbors." And earlier today, Mayor Keith Wilson issued the following statement regarding this shooting in the Hazelwood neighborhood, writing in part, "We cannot sit by while constitutional protections erode and bloodshed mounts. Portland is not a, quote, training ground, end quote, for militarized agents, and the, quote, full force threatened by the administration has deadly consequences." He goes on to say, "As mayor, I call on ICE to end all operations in Portland until a full investigation can be completed." Christine, David, back to you.
Thanks, Devin. Appreciate you keeping on top of this. If you're just joining us, 2 people were shot by federal agents in East Portland this afternoon around 2:15. Federal agent or federal agents, a 33-year-old man and a 32-year-old woman in the hospital now, recovering from those injuries. I should say we do not actually know their condition, only that they were taken to the hospital. There's 2 scenes here where the shooting actually occurred, which is near Adventist Hospital. That's near Mall 205 in southeast Portland. And then about 3 miles east, 146 in East Burnside, a second scene. We understand from NBC News sources that the two people who were shot drove themselves about 3 miles to what appears to be an apartment complex on East Burnside. Someone then called 911, police responding along with paramedics and transporting them to the hospital. Homeland Security calling this a targeted vehicle stop outside this medical center. These two people are connected or Venezuelan gang members, potentially Venezuelan gang members. They say the driver weaponizing their vehicle, attempting to run over an agent. That's when a Customs and Border Protection agent fired either a shot or multiple shots. Again, a lot of questions about this tonight.
An NBC News source says this operation was dubbed, quote, Operation Oregon. The individuals involved, the two people shot, apparently a 33-year-old man and a 32-year-old woman. Again, as David said, we do not know their condition. We do not know exactly where they're being treated tonight, but we are monitoring to try to find out that information. And as David also said, this is a two-location incident. The first location, as we said, near Adventist Health around 2:15, where officers got a report of a shooting at about 2:24, just before 2:30 this afternoon. Officers then got a call from a man saying that he'd been shot. There were two people that they found shot. That is also where our Blair Best is tonight at Northeast 146th Avenue and East Burnside. Blair, earlier you had described this area as a residential neighborhood, and I know there are a number of people there at this point, and you've been able to talk to them.
That's right, Christine. The tone is rather calm, but people are upset. Some on the verge of tears. Joining me now live is Enzo. He lives right down the street from where officers are staged. This again is where Portland police officers found the two people who had been shot by federal agents. So Enzo, talk to me. How did you find out about this? What do you make of this happening in your neighborhood?
Yeah, so I just live down the street on 146 in Stark. I was just at my house, minding my own business, having a great day. And my girlfriend calls me and she says, "Hey, did you hear about what just happened?"
Can I get back?
Oh, yeah.
Sure, go for it.
Thank you.
She says, "Hey, did you hear about what did you hear about what happened?" And I was like, "No, what happened?" And so she sends me the article, and I look at it and I'm like, "Oh my God, this is right by our house. Like, this is right in my neighborhood." And so, and like shortly after that, my stepdad and my mom arrived, and they were like, "We should go down there." So we, just put on some coats, whatever, it's cold out here. Mm-hmm. And so we came down here, and now this is where I'm at. Yeah.
What do you make of seeing this? There's a half a dozen police cruisers. There's like a dozen Portland police officers lined up. An entire block is taped off.
I mean, it's absolutely. I mean, at this point, it's ridiculous, and I think I wish I had all the answers, but I think that something needs to be done, and I'm actually not surprised because just yesterday a woman was murdered. So I think we're at a point where it's just not surprising that these things are happening anymore, and I wish that there was something more that we could do about it. I don't know what we're supposed to do about it, but this is ridiculous. Like, what are we supposed to do as a people in this type of climate?
Okay, and so thank you for talking with us. Many protesters were here earlier tonight. There was some shouting between groups of people that has since calmed down, and we know the protesters are showing up at the ICE building downtown, but for now we'll toss it back to you.
Blair Best on East Burnside this evening. We also understand, by the way, that protesters are showing up, or demonstrators, I should say, at City Hall as well. That's where we find our Selene Stevens. Selene, what's the latest where you are?
David, well, definitely the crowd here has started to grow. As you can see behind me, I believe there's a few people here that have started to come. I spoke with an organizer a few minutes ago as well. There's going to be a rally and a vigil here at City Hall starting shortly. But City Hall, today earlier on, I was initially here because there were a group of around 10 protesters that came to try and meet with Mayor Wilson regarding the ICE facility and the land use violation and all that. And they went up the stairs and they went to his office, and they were told the mayor could not meet with them because there was an emergency in Portland. And that's how we initially found out about all of this. It was unclear what that emergency was until, of course, a little later on, and we learned that two people had been shot by those federal agents. And the second people here, not here, but earlier this afternoon around 2 p.m. heard that it was an emergency, they immediately said, they assumed it was a shooting or somebody had been hurt by federal agents. And that sort of speaks to, what's in people's minds, especially following that shooting that happened in Minneapolis yesterday. And so I also spoke with counselors after all that, around an hour or so ago, about their reaction to this. They were in a meeting and they had to go to recess when they found out what happened. And so we're going to go ahead and I believe take a listen to Counselor Avalos.
Anger, enragement,
about the way that the federal government, this pattern of violence continues to escalate. They continue to target our community. And as someone who represents the district with the most immigrants, and as a daughter of immigrants, this is personal.
Were you in the chambers when this occurred?
Yes.
Did you know immediately that this was a shooting related to federal agents, or when did you learn that?
We were in chambers, we were told to leave, and within a few minutes we were getting the information. So it was all happening pretty quickly, but we learned pretty quickly.
And so, I've been out there at the ICE facility during the protests. So many reporters have, and I mean, I don't know if we've ever seen anything happen like this. We saw in Minneapolis, obviously yesterday, this happened to somebody, and now one day later, we're seeing it here on the streets of Portland. Just, what do you have to say about that, and how does that make you feel?
It makes me feel like our president and his administration is incredibly dangerous and unstable, and every day it's getting worse, and we need our Congress to act immediately. There is no answer right now that is not impeach, convict, and remove this dangerous man who is threatening our communities. Our democracy cannot survive this.
Okay. Is there anything else that you want to add to tell Portlanders that may be watching this? I know a lot of people, there were people here already protesting 2 hours ago, and they were telling me that they're worried that inaction with things like the ICE facility and other things like that would lead to a death, and within an hour of them saying those words, this happened. So is there anything that you'd like to tell people that are watching at home off of that?
Absolutely. I understand your frustration, and I'm really doing every single thing in my power. Every single moment, we are trying to find new ways to interrupt these patterns of violence. And so I am committed to continue to do that, and I'm going to be up all night figuring it out.
So again, people are gathering out here at City Hall. I know they're also gathering in other areas in Portland too, like the ICE facility. There's probably around 30 people or so out here right now. There are some people with signs and flags, as you see behind me, but everything's remained peaceful. There hasn't even been really any acts of chanting or rallying just yet. I believe that's starting in a bit. Again, there's also going to be a vigil as a part of that rally. But for now, David and Christina, I'll toss it back to you.
Yeah, Councilor Candace Avalos there essentially saying if this continues, our democracy cannot survive this. Selene Stevens outside City Hall. Really appreciate your reporting.
And of course, we will continue to cover this breaking news situation that left two people, a 33-year-old man, 32-year-old woman, according to NBC News sources, shot. FBI investigating tonight the situation that involved Customs and Border Protection agents. And so that will be continuing. But for now, we'll toss it over to Matt for a quick look at your weather.
All right, Christine, thank you very much. It has been a very, very active 3 days up at the Cascades. It's been snowing since Tuesday. It's finally beginning to wind down, but look at the piles of snow up there, and there's still some snow shower activity. 23 degrees and 34 inches of new snow since Tuesday. This is exactly what we needed to help boost our snowpack and to really get ski season into full gear across the state of Oregon. 34 inches at Timberline. Meadows right behind. Ski Bowl, 21 inches, and they're finally going to be able to open for the season tomorrow and over the weekend, so the lifts will be spinning at Ski Bowl if that's your choice. Mount Bachelor, 29 inches. They have greatly expanded the amount of skiable terrain that they have open, and Mount Rainier, 32 inches of snow, so it's been great. The roads, though, are still snow covered. See, folks are traveling on it. It's just a good snow-packed highway there, Santa Ana Pass and Willamette Pass. So if your plans take you up to the mountain or over the Cascades, make sure your car is equipped with traction tires or changed and you're ready to drive. We've got 45 degrees in Portland right now under a cloudy sky, but the rain has largely ended. There are still a few showers out along the coast range here, but for the valleys, we may get a sprinkle tonight, but that would be the extent of it. There's a little bit over the West Hills right now, too, and up over Clark County, but all of this is going to be ending as we go through the overnight hours. And the rainfall, such as it is today, not very heavy, a couple hundreds here and there. Over at the coast, even there, less than 1/10 of an inch of rain. Now, off the coast, lots of scattered clouds here, so I can't promise you days of sunshine just yet, but we've got them in the 7-day forecast, because again, it's the middle of next week. The other thing happening now that we're switching to a very, very stable and calm weather pattern, the air is going to become stagnant because there's very little movement of the air. There's not a lot of wind, so not much overturning or ventilation of the air mass. So air stagnation advisory begins tomorrow at 10 a.m. Anybody with respiratory issues want to take heed of that. Here's the forecast. See, the snow showers tonight, they wind down, everything ends. There is a weak system here approaching us on Sunday, Saturday night, Sunday morning, so maybe a couple sprinkles from that. But after that, high pressure really builds, and this is an east wind pattern, but it's not a cold east wind pattern. It's a mild one. High temperatures next week will likely climb to the mid to upper 50s as high pressure really builds strongly here along the west coast for several days to come. So a big, big change to calm weather over pretty much all of next week. Our high today was 47 degrees, made it up to 46 in Roseburg, a couple 50s on the coast, but everybody else in the 30s and 40s for high temperatures today. Outside right now, it is 45 degrees and the freezing level is going to begin to rise, but don't worry, we will retain our new snow. It's not going to melt. It's not going to get rained on. The sun angle is just so low this time of the year that even with the warmer weather coming, the snowpack should be fine. So showers ending tonight. We'll have clouds tomorrow, maybe a few sunbreaks late in the day. Look for a high temperature of about 50 degrees in Portland. And if you like the sound of that, after the 49 on Saturday, we make 50 again on Sunday. Just a few light showers there. That's it for rainfall in the days ahead. Look at this, 54 on Monday, Tuesday 57, and then 55 on Wednesday and Thursday as dry January goes into full swing as we go through next week, guys. So again, it's going to be a fairly pleasant weekend. Back to you.
Yeah, lots of news tonight, but appreciate you giving us an update on the weather. Thank you, Matt.
Well, if you're just joining us, David Molko here along with Christine Pittawanich on this Thursday evening, and we want to recap the breaking news for you this evening, where it appears a federal agent, a Customs and Border Protection agent, this is including the Homeland Security, has shot and injured 2 people in Southeast Portland. This is near a medical center, Adventist Medical Center, not far from Mall 205. The victims, we understand, survived, were transported to the hospital, a 33-year-old man and 32-year-old woman. Homeland Security calling it a targeted vehicle stop of Venezuelan gang members. The driver tried to run over the agents, Homeland Security says, and that is when the agent fired a defensive shot.
Yeah, and they are calling it Operation Oregon, according to sources with NBC News. To give you a bit of a timeline here as to when this all happened, it happened this afternoon, starting at about 2:18 this afternoon near Adventist Health at 102nd and Southeast Main. That was when police got a report of a shooting. Then roughly 3 miles away to the east at about 2:24, a man called for help. Officers arrived. They found 2 people shot. According to NBC News sources, a 33-year-old male, 32-year-old woman. At this point, we do not know their conditions. We do not know where they're being treated. Right now, the FBI is investigating, calling it a situation that involved Customs and Border Protection agents.
Yeah, the FBI calling this an assault, quote, on a federal officer. You can see the map there, the 2 scenes, the shooting scene, and then 146 in Burnside, an apartment complex. Homeland Security saying that actually the 2 people in the car took off in what we understand was a red Toyota from the scene, ended up at what appears to be an apartment complex on East Burnside. That's where that 911 call happened, where police responded and took those 2 to the hospital. Again, no word on their condition this evening, but you can certainly understand the heightened emotion around all of this, given events in Minneapolis just over 24 hours ago, where an ICE agent shot a 37-year-old woman. That investigation still ongoing. This investigation in its early stages. And Christine, we should point out, by and large, officials from the federal, state, and local levels all calling for transparency, but more importantly than that, at this point, calm as well.
Right, and we have heard from our Blair Best, from others, many of our reporters that are fanned out across the area, that there are protesters. When we spoke to our reporters in the field, many of those protesters were calm, albeit boisterous at one point, angry, which you can understand, especially coming on the heels of what happened in Minneapolis. I know there are some protesters who are headed to City Hall, some protesters headed to the ICE facility, but as David also mentioned, right now across the board, our city, state officials saying, stay calm. Chief of Police Bob Day said that they are hoping that people stay calm and vigilant. Same with our Mayor Keith Wilson, echoing that same message.
What we don't have at this point is, I should say, the condition of the 2 people who were shot. We don't have any context on what federal agents were doing at this medical center, other than to say from NBC News that this was dubbed Operation Oregon, part of a bigger operation, and this was a targeted vehicle spot. Again, they are saying Homeland Security of suspected Venezuelan gang members is there, and then the shooting was defensive, but we have not heard any witness accounts. We have not seen any surveillance video, so, in the ilk of what we've saw in Minnesota 24 hours ago. So right now, there are a lot of questions. There are a lot of heightened emotions. To mention a little bit about what you said here with the mayor and these calls for calm, there are calls for calm, but there are also demands. I want to read a little bit about what Mayor Keith Wilson saying. He said, "I call on ICE to end all operations in Portland until a full investigation can be completed. This undermines effective community-based public safety." He goes on to say, "I call on every Portlander to represent our values and to show up with calm and purpose during this difficult time. And it's a difficult time for our community. It's a difficult time for all of us, considering the context of not only what we've seen in Minnesota, but everything that's transpired in the Rose City, not only in the last few months outside the ICE facility with the tug of war over the National Guard, but also the broader context of what happened in Portland in 2020 with the racial justice protests as well. So that's why we hear these calls for calm repeatedly.
Right, you can understand the sadness, the anger. Right now we want to go out to our Blair Best. She's at one of the 2 locations where this initially started. She is at Northeast 146th Avenue and East Burnside, the second location where a man called police. They showed up, they found 2 people shot. Blair, what can you tell us?
So the crowd has grown throughout the night, and Portland Police liaison officers have showed up. Joining me now live is Sergeant DiMatteo. Sergeant, what is sort of your role here tonight?
So as liaisons, we go out to protest events, community events. Anytime where there's some tension, we try to just talk to people and help de-escalate things.
What are you seeing here tonight? How would you describe what's happening in this neighborhood?
There's a bunch of people who have emotions, so we're just going out and talking to them and seeing if there's anything we can help with, exercising First Amendment rights, or just answering general questions.
What would be your message to protesters tonight?
Just everybody should stay peaceful.
Do you have any fears that might not happen?
There's always the fear that people could not be peaceful. There's also it could be peaceful. So I'm prepared for either one, of which I'm just going to go and talk to people and see what we can do to help.
Okay, Sergeant, thank you so much. That was Sergeant DiMatteo from Portland Police. Just a few minutes ago, I will add, a tow truck has showed up and went underneath the yellow caution tape, and it's towards the back of this apartment building. We can't see what it's doing or what vehicle it's after, but we'll keep you posted with that information. Back to you.
All right, Blair Best on East Burnside there. Thanks, Blair. I want to take you live downtown, where we understand the governor, the mayor, and the police chief, among others, are set to hold a news conference any moment now. We should note that while this may provide context about some of what's occurred, the FBI are the ones leading this investigation.
Right, so at this point, as we've been saying all night long, information is scarce, but we'll continue to learn more throughout the evening and the weeks to come, I'm sure of it. So we'll keep tabs on when Portland Police start this press conference. We'll bring it to you live. For now, we're going to go to our Selene Stevens, who's live at City Hall and has had a chance to speak with a number of people, including our city councilors, and you can see behind her, a vigil has started. Selene.
Christine, that's right. I spoke with city councilors early, and recently I was speaking with people that are organizing this rally and vigil that we have here behind me. Like I mentioned, they're actually just starting to speak. There are people here with candles, and I checked in around 15 minutes or so ago, and there was only maybe around 30 people, and now this crowd has grown to anywhere between maybe 80 to 100 people. There are people here with signs, again, candles just coming forward, and this is all, of course, for the people that were shot by the federal agents earlier today. And so they're going to have this vigil first, I believe, and then rally. And I don't know if you can hear, of course, people are currently chanting. I'll let you take a listen. So clearly people are chanting to abolish ICE right now, and protesters were here earlier in the day at City Hall. They're here right now, and people are clearly feeling very passionate at the moment. I don't know if you can see the speaker right now, but again, about 100 people or so on scene right now here at City Hall for the vigil that just started off when I started speaking. And so again, people are out here definitely making their voices heard tonight. But I'm going to toss it back to you guys.
All right, Selene Stevens outside City Hall. If your cameraman can just, or your photographer rather, can just pan that over and keep an eye on that vigil for us. We'd love to just keep that in our sights. The events of this afternoon, that a federal agent shot 2 people, obviously drawing a lot of people to City Hall.
And for now, we want to go to the press conference that is starting with Portland Police. Let's listen in.
Well, obviously trying to get organized there. You can see Police Chief Bob Day, the Council President Alana Purtle-Guinea there, some members from the County Commission as well. I'm looking for the mayor. I think he must be there. Multnomah County Sheriff Nicole Morrissey O'Donnell, some other members of City Council, Candace Avalos, and Governor Tina Kotek here walking up to the podium. So sort of a unified front by city, county, and state officials here. What we're not seeing is federal officials, the FBI leading this investigation. Let's listen in to police spokesperson Mike Bennett here.
Thank you for joining us on such short notice. We're here to address the shooting incident involving federal agents in southeast Portland earlier this afternoon. We have a number of speakers, including Mayor Keith Wilson, Governor Tina Kotek, and many others who I will let introduce themselves as they come to the podium. We'll begin with Chief Bob Day, who will share some details about the shooting and then some of those remarks of his, and we'll go on from there. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. I'm going to share just a few details. As you're aware, this is still a very active investigation, so information is limited and won't be speaking to a lot of specifics. But what I can say is that approximately 2:18 this afternoon, Portland police officers responded to the 10,000 block of Southeast Main Street on the report of a shooting. So it came in via a 911 call. Officers confirmed that federal agents had been involved in a shooting. Portland police were not involved in that incident. About 6 minutes later, at 2:24 p.m., officers received information, once again through dispatch, that a man who had been shot was calling and requesting help in the area of Northeast 146th and East Burnside. Our officers responded. We found a male and a female with apparent gunshot wounds. Officers applied a tourniquet and summoned emergency medical personnel. The patients were transported to local hospital, and their conditions at this time are unknown. Officers had determined that the two people who were injured in the shooting involving the federal agents from the earlier call. PPB officers secured both scenes, and this is a federal investigation. It's being led by the FBI. We have been in touch with them. We are, in regular contact. This is their responsibility, but when we have these type of events happen in the city, Portland Police Bureau does offer a level of assistance. This is not any way, shape, or form immigration related on our end. We do not know the facts of this case. We are simply providing that traditional investigative support and perimeter support, which is minimal, but I do want to make it clear that we are out there, but we are not involved in immigration. And we at this time do not know if this is an immigration related event. We do not know which federal agencies were involved. As we know, there are many federal agencies serving in the city of Portland right now. So as I said, it's a complex situation with a lot of different information coming out, but Portland Police is on the scene, the detectives, etc. I want to say, that I'm saddened that we are here once again in a difficult, challenging, complex situation. But I'm also incredibly grateful for Portlanders. I'm grateful for the way that we have continued to show up over the past year, and we have certainly been tested. And this is no small circumstance. The uncertainty and the fear and the sadness within our community is real. And as the Chief Law Enforcement of the City of Portland, I recognize that. Our members recognize that. And we are doing everything in our power to maintain that level of peace and calm and safety. And I want to thank Portlanders who have continued to show up in this space as well, and hopeful that they will do so over the next couple of days, as I'm expecting many to want to express their frustration and disappointment with events today. As I said, this is early on. We do not know the cause, but we are engaged, and hopefully we'll have more information as the evening unfolds. I'm going to turn it over now to Mayor Wilson.
Thank you, Chief. And I just want to also just reiterate what he had talked about the city standing tall and really standing together. And I've been before you already too many times under these circumstances, but I'm grateful that every time I do make the call within such a short period of time, that the Madam Governor will answer the call, and all of the individuals standing behind me and all of our elected officials and community leaders are standing with us as well. And we've always stood together, and we will continue to stand together. Just one day after the horrific violence in Minnesota, our community here in Portland was witness to a moment of fear, confusion, and heartbreak. Earlier this afternoon, 2 people were shot and injured by federal agents in the Hazelwood neighborhood. Violence in our community is devastating. These are not statistics. These are human beings. Portland is not a training ground for militarized agents. When the administration talks about using full force, we are seeing what it means on our streets. The consequences are not abstract. They are felt in hospital rooms and living rooms, in the quiet moments when families try to make sense of what happened, what is happening. We know what the federal government says happened here. There was a time when we could take them at their word. That time is long past. That is why we are calling on ICE to halt all operations in Portland until a full and independent investigation can take place. Our community deserves answers. Our community deserves accountability. And most of all, our community deserves peace. Earlier today, I spoke with Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey. We shared not just our concerns, but our grief for the families who are suffering and grief for the recklessness of our federal government. The administration is trying to divide us, to pit communities against one another, to make us fear one another. Portland. This is a moment to hold each other close, to stand together, to remember that our strength has always come from community, compassion, and solidarity. Yesterday, Governor Walz made an appeal to all of us. Today, I want to say clearly that we stand with Minneapolis, we stand with Minnesota, we stand with Chicago, we stand with LA. We stand with every community that is hurting in our nation, every family that is afraid, every person who feels unseen or unheard. ICE agents and their Homeland Security leadership must fully be investigated and held responsible for the violence inflicted on the American people in Minnesota, in Portland, and in all the communities across America. The Federal Protective Service claims values such as service, integrity, honor, and vigilance. This is the moment to live those values, not behind masks, not through intimidation, but through transparency, accountability, and most of all, humanity. So thank you. I'd like to turn it over to the governor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Chief Day. Good evening, Oregonians. We are standing here today united as a state, wanting peace and safety in our communities. We are all shaken and outraged by another terrible, unnecessary, violent event instigated by the reckless agenda of the Trump administration. This time in our own state, in our largest city, coming just one day after the tragedy in Minnesota. While the details of the incident remain limited, one thing is very clear. When a president endorses tearing families apart and attempts to govern through fear and hate rather than shared values, you foster an environment of lawlessness and recklessness. Trust is essential to maintaining community safety and the rule of law. Federal agents at the direction of the Department of Homeland Security are shattering trust. They are hurting people and they are destroying day by day what we hold dear. Our sense of safety and our literal safety are severely undermined by what happened this afternoon in Portland. I'm so thankful that no one died and more people weren't hurt. The Attorney General and other leaders have been clear about our concerns with the excessive use of force by federal agents in Portland. And today's incident only heightens the need for transparency and accountability. Oregonians deserve clear answers. And I am aligned with the mayor. The priority right now is a full, completed investigation, not more detentions. My message to the federal government is this: we demand transparency. We demand your cooperation with Portland Police and the Multnomah County DA, because we need to investigate this incident efficiently and effectively so we can rebuild trust with our nation's government. There are those who want to cause chaos, but Oregonians know how to stand up and speak out peacefully. We must remain united in peaceful opposition to efforts to tear our community apart. We must not turn against each other We must stand neighbor to neighbor. We must not take the bait. And I want to end by saying I'm grateful to the first responders who have been managing this incident today here in Portland. And I stand and we stand united with Americans across our country and with Minneapolis and Minnesota in light of these very troubling events. Thank you. I'd now like to hand over the podium to Senator Casey Jama, Democratic leader in the Oregon Senate.
Well, good afternoon or good evening, everyone. My name is Senator Casey Chama. I also serve as the Senate Majority Leader. I live Hazelwood neighborhood. The incident took place not that far where I live in my home. I'm raising my 2 children. I live with my wife. I have a few messages, but let me start to say this one first. My prayer is to the families and those who are hurt, and I hope they will recover speedily. As I said, I have been in this country about 28 years and I'm a former refugee. I have never thought I will see this moment in the United States of America. This is a challenging time for us. My colleagues and I are working together to ensure that we address this issue at the state legislative level. We want to do as best as we can to protect the Oregonians who are fearful, who are scared, who are facing persecution under federal law. So we're going to introduce quite a number of bills that will be trying to minimize the impact of ICE in our community. I'm outraged and angry and frustrated, as many Oregonians are. Let me speak to Oregonians. I share your frustration. An immigrant refugee community, let me talk directly to them. I share your fear. I share your challenges that we're all facing. And I know that the struggle is real. Let me say this to the Oregonians. Oregonians are welcoming. State of Oregon is welcoming state. We want to keep that way. We want to fight for that. We want to work hard for that. And we want to make sure that all Oregonians feel welcome. Let me say to this to the federal agencies and the ICE. This is Oregon. We do not need you. You're not welcome. And you need to get the hell out of our community. Now I want to turn to the podium to Multnomah County Chair Jessica Figabert Peterson.
Good evening, everyone. If we were living in anything close to normal times, we would not be here right now. We should not be here right now. We should not be here right now because federal agents should not be in Portland neighborhoods shooting people. We should not be here right now because Renee Nicole Good should be alive and with her family in Minnesota right now. I want everyone to know that Multnomah County stands united in support of our immigrant and refugee neighbors and everyone opposing this injustice. I am proud to be joined tonight by Commissioner Moyer, Commissioner Edwards, and Commissioner Jones-Dixon. Enough is enough. The terror and violence ICE is causing in our neighborhoods must end now. At this moment, we don't know what precipitated the incident, the circumstances that led to the shooting, or the identities of people involved. The FBI will be leading the investigation, and they need to allow local law enforcement to participate, and they need to be transparent and accountable to local governments. We know that this news is incredibly alarming and upsetting. We know what happens today speaks to a fear that we have had since last fall when federal law enforcement and immigration agents first increased their presence in our community. Multnomah County will not stand by as federal governments attack our neighbors. Just this morning, our board unanimously voted to extend an emergency declaration in response to the ongoing harm of ICE activity, and we will keep showing up in every way that we can. During our vote, I shared that over the holidays, my office received a string of emails and calls from neighbors in the Brentwood-Darlington neighborhood who are asking for help to find 2 neighbors who were kidnapped by federal agents the day after Christmas. Both of these people are the primary breadwinners for their families, and their children attend the local elementary school. As a parent, my heart breaks for their families and the whole community that has been impacted by these cruel actions. Add to this the horrific murder of Renee Nicole Good in Minnesota, the dozens of lives that have been lost in ICE detention this year, and now a shooting here in Portland. And we can only conclude that this federal activity is a threat to our entire community and is a threat that is growing every day. In light of this, our community is calling on us to act, to deploy resources to support the families impacted by federal activity, and to do all that's in our power to ensure the safety of neighbors going forward. That's what the state of Oregon, Portland, and Multnomah County leaders have done and will continue to do as we respond to this crisis. That's what the people of Portland have done, representing the best of Portland to the whole nation as we continue to stand up for injustice. Thank you to all of you who have come out to protest the cruel and authoritarian actions of this administration while representing Portland's values. Keep showing up the way you have been. Keep raising your voices. Keep showing everyone who we are. Our neighbors and the literal crosshairs of this administration need your support now more than ever. Our solidarity is our strength. These are dark times. There's no getting around that. But I know that together we will persevere. Thank you. And now I would like to turn it over to Portland City Councilor Loretta Smith.
Good evening. My name is Loretta Smith, and I'm a counselor from District 1. I stand here with my other counselors, Counselor Candace Avalos and Jamie Dunphy. This situation just got real. This is not a PlayStation moment where you can shoot folks and they come back alive again. I live in that district. The struggle was already real for immigrants and refugees who live in our community and our neighborhoods. And now I have to go home and tell my son and my 3 grandkids that they cannot stop for law enforcement because they're going to be afraid by looking at law enforcement that they might have the same thing happen to them that happened today. That is so unconscionable. That just a day later, what happened in Minneapolis, happening right here in Portland. This is very personal for me. And people who look like me, they shouldn't be afraid to walk around in their neighborhoods, walking to school in the morning with their kids. They should feel comfortable in their neighborhoods. And now we're disarmed now. We don't know who to trust. But I want to say here, I support the mayor, I support the governor in their efforts to do the things that we need to do to get ICE out of our state, in our city, in our neighborhoods. The harassment, the violence, the unconscionable walking around and infiltrating our communities as if we're some sort of third world country. It's not cool. And it's not something that we should support. I feel good, I feel strong standing next to my elected leaders and my community leaders behind me. We have to do whatever we need to do to make sure that ICE is no more. Thank you.
I'd like to introduce Latino Network and Tony DeFalco.
Good evening. Tony DeFalco, Executive Director at Latino Network. We are hurting tonight in our community. We are tired of this violence in our community, and we're pissed off. Just last week, we buried one of our young people from gun violence, not less than a mile from this site at 148th and Burnside. This kind of violence is nothing new to our neighborhoods here in Portland and Multnomah County, and we've been working hard for decades to reduce this trend of gun violence by private individuals, but worse, by state-sponsored violence in our neighborhoods. And for this to happen tonight, in many ways, is not a surprise to us. It has been perpetrated upon us for many, many decades as part of routine operations to balance power against our community. So tonight we have a few calls to action. One, we call on our state leadership to continue its efforts to minimize the role of federal authorities in our communities and to enact legislation in the short session that allows for private right to action, to sue, to enable our Attorney General and others to bring charges against the perpetrators of these violent acts, and to go even further to protect immigrant communities from this ongoing violence and oppression. Two, we desperately need investment in our community. We are picking up the pieces. 2 weeks ago, 2 mothers were taken from their families. And in our community, the mothers are the glue that holds everything together. And by targeting mothers, they are trying to rip away the fabric of our very community. The ability to take care of our young people, to take care of entire families, and to match up breadwinners, resources that are coming in with the ability to get kids to school, get kids into preschool, is absolutely devastating to us. And we are desperately trying to fill the gaps by providing wraparound supports to our communities in the form of rent eviction prevention, food, other necessary things coming from these violent acts of detention and now physical violence. Those resources are not coming from our state yet. We need those resources to come from our state immediately. And last, we are gathering tonight to mourn this act of violence at Legacy Emmanuel Hospital, and we're asking all those that are watching or reading tonight to join us to honor all of those that have been impacted by these violent acts by our federal agencies over the last several months, and to know that we cannot be ripped apart despite these intentions of our federal government. We will continue to hold each other close and continue to be the strong fabric that our entire city, county, and state need from our Latina community. Thank you. Next up, Pastors Hennessy and Knutson.
Go ahead.
I'm not going to choose.
Go ahead. You lead. Come close. Come close.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Reverend Dr. J.W. Matt Hennessy, the pastor of the historic Vancouver Avenue First Baptist Church here in Portland, and also the leader of the Interfaith Peace and Action Collaborative. My friends, I echo the very comments that have already been made, and I want to be clear about that. The comments of recognizing that the reason why federal agents are here is because of a false narrative in the first place, when people were told that Portland was on fire, Portland was burning. Portland is a great city, and it's a city I've been a member of for the last 37 years, and I'm not going to let anybody try to make it any worse. One thing's for sure, we have our issues, just like every city does, but we are determined to work together to make sure that we resolve the problems or issues or challenges we have, and we do not need help from the federal agencies to do in more. If they want to do anything, they should go back and restore the grant money that was there that we used to build bridges with police and community. They ought to be thinking about how we restore money to bridges like the Burnside Bridge and things of that nature. That's what we need. But until then, we're not going to let anybody take our joy. We're not going to let anybody cause us to be afraid. And I want the immigrant community, and specifically, as Tony just spoke about the Latinx community, we are with you. as faith leaders, as members of the black community. I want you to know you are our brothers and sisters, and nobody is going to stop us, and nobody is going to break the chain of our belief in working together. So we will work together. Those who came before us and the allies who worked with them, they had worse situations going on, but nothing stopped them. And I end on the fact that I still recall that one of my favorite verses of We Shall Overcome is the verse that says, we are not afraid. We are not afraid, and we will not be made to fear. We are going to rise above it, reach out to one another, and do everything that we can to work together, pray together, protest together, peacefully together, and remember, let's not take the bait. We can do this peacefully, and peace and love always win.
Thank you, Dr. Hennessy, and to the mayor and the governor, thanks for your leadership and all the elected leaders, Chief Day, and all our friends, Tony and the rest. My name is Reverend Dr. W.J. Mark Knutson, Senior Pastor, Augustana Lutheran Church, a church that declared sanctuary my first year there 30 years ago because people were facing deportation. We're in a lawsuit right now with the federal government, with Pacun, our church, a church in Florida, a large Catholic church in San Diego, and the Interfaith Council of San Francisco. It's moving now quickly in the courts. And the National Education Association has joined that as well. So around this country and this city and state, people are weaving together a movement built on nonviolent direct action to challenge what is into something that can be new. I do want to say to the press today, we celebrate your work. You're not fake, you do real news, and you are storytellers. There wouldn't have been a civil rights movement or a farm workers movement in the same manner without the press being there to cover it. So thank you, and know you're valued. Let me say this, my 1 minute's almost up. I followed a Baptist pastor, so I can take a little bit more time. But I want to say this. We're coming up on the King weekend. And a year ago, we backed our 30th King service back a week until this new administration came into office. Mayor, you came and spoke at that. And we packed the church. People were ready a year ago, January, to stand up and stand in solidarity. Our prayers are number one with our immigrant siblings, the couple that's in trouble today. We have members from 23 countries. I don't know if that's not one of our members from Venezuela and his wife. It's going through all of our minds. Some of my colleagues say, you were crying. I was crying. We are all crying. We are so torn in this moment, and with a very diverse family myself, as a white male, I can drive around. But my son, my wife, my grandson, daughter, others, our biggest extended family, it's dangerous out there. And so to know this, the faith community, interfaith, we work closely together in Oregon. Our Native American spiritual leaders on whose land we stand. Jewish leaders, Muslim leaders, Hindu leaders, Sikh leaders, Christian leaders, other people of faith and people of just goodwill to say enough is enough. This cannot continue. It is inhuman. With King's celebration coming up in just a week, his last couple sermons at Ebenezer and then at the National Cathedral and then at Riverside Church in New York, he said the biggest purveyor of violence in the world in 1968, the week before he was murdered, is our own government. Those words 60 years later train truly because we have sisters and brothers who are us, our brown and black siblings, our LGBTQ members are afraid tonight, and we should all be standing in fear and holding together one another and saying to this man in the White House, and I know you're watching, I'll call you out, study your scripture. Don't be doing theological malpractice. Study your scriptures. What does the Lord require of you but to do justice, love kindness, walk humbly with the Creator and with one another. And in that spirit, Oregon, you've shown we can do this nonviolently. Read the 6 principles of nonviolent direct action. Keep doing what you are doing in a peaceful way. We shall overcome. God bless all of you. God bless our elected leaders, our civic leaders. All of us together, we can do this. Thank you.
I'd like to call up Jessica Maravilla with the ACLU.
Good evening. My name is Jessica Maravilla, and I'm the Policy Director for the ACLU of Oregon. We're an organization dedicated to protecting civil liberties and civil rights, and a core part of our work is defending immigrant and refugee rights. As you heard today, less than 24 hours after Renee Nicole Good was shot and killed by ICE in Minneapolis, 2 people in our communities were shot by ICE here in Portland. Our hearts are with those who were injured, their families, and with everyone carrying fear tonight, because this is not an isolated incident. This is the continuation of ICE harming our communities. While there is still much we don't know, we do know this. People are in the hospital tonight because of the actions taken by our federal government, funded by our tax dollars. And this did not happen in isolation. For months, federal immigration agencies have operated with impunity, deploying heavily armed agents into American communities, smashing car windows, dragging people from their vehicles, tear gassing peaceful protesters, and terrorizing neighborhoods. This is what it looks like when a government brings a war posture into everyday life, into streets, into sidewalks, and communities where people are supposed to be safe. Si sienten rabia, no están exagerando. Esta no es seguridad. No es seguridad pública. Es intimidación como política. Everyone deserves dignity. People deserve to go to work, to take their kids to school, to go to medical appointments, to live their everyday lives and stand in solidarity with neighbors being harmed, without fear of being detained, harmed, or killed by the federal government. Nadie debería vivir con miedo simplemente por existir. No human being is collateral damage. Renee Good and the 2 community members shot today are human beings. They are our neighbors. Her death, alongside the violence we witness here today, is a warning about what happens when cruelty is normalized and accountability disappears. This is about law versus lawlessness, dignity versus fear, and whether we will tolerate violence carried out in our name. We cannot undo what has already happened, but we can refuse what comes next. We can demand accountability, insist on transparency, and stand together calmly, firmly, and peacefully to protect one another. La verdadera seguridad nace de la comunidad, del respeto y de los derechos humanos. Y eso es lo que seguiremos defendiendo juntos. We are working with our state elected leaders to advance legislation next month, and we want to demand more transparency, meaningful accountability, because public safety must never come at the expense of human rights. As our community is now saying, enough is enough. Not a slogan, as a practice. Thank you.
We've been listening in on a Portland police press conference happening right now in downtown Portland. A number of people speaking at that press conference, among them Chief Bob Day, Mayor Keith Wilson, Governor Tina Kotek, Senator Casey Jama from the Oregon Legislature, Jessica Vega-Peterson, along with City Councilor Loretta Smith, and a number of nonprofits as well as faith leaders in our area.
Certainly a unified front in the events and the circumstances of today, which is, we understand, a federal agent working for Customs and Border Protection, shot 2 people during a what they called a targeted vehicle stop. They say Homeland Security says the agent fired a defensive shot when the driver drove off. I just want to recap a little bit of what we heard. I should mention as well, a 33-year-old man, a 32-year-old woman injured, both, as far as we know, in the hospital. That's the latest information there. Just some of the feelings coming up tonight from Chief Day, saying there's uncertainty, there's fear, there's sadness, and it's real. Governor Kotek saying she is shaken and outraged by this. I want to note something which is really interesting, especially coming 24 hours after Minnesota, where there is surveillance video of the shooting, where 37-year-old Renee Good lost her life when she was shot by an ICE agent. In that case, you saw a lot of officials jumping very quickly. The mayor of Minneapolis, for one, jumping on the video, what they saw, casting judgment, saying, well, our account, what we're seeing doesn't match up with the official account here. You didn't see that in that news conference. You heard the police chief, you heard the mayor, you heard the governor sort of reserving judgment, calling for a complete and transparent investigation. What's interesting, though, is Mayor Keith Wilson saying, in terms of the official federal response, which alleges or says that the people in this vehicle that tried to hit somebody were gang members, him saying, quote, there was a time when we could take the federal government at their word. That time has long passed, end quote.
And the incident today, it happened at 2 separate locations, one at about 2:15 today in Southeast Portland, Southeast Main and 102nd. The second location where a man called police. When police arrived, they found 2 people shot. That is where our Alma McCarty is tonight at Northeast 146th Avenue and East Burnside. Alma, during that press conference, we saw a bit of video pop up of a red Toyota. We know that from NBC sources, agents apparently stopped a red Toyota whose driver then, they say, attempted to flee, striking an unidentified agent. So what did you see on the ground where you are?
Yeah, Christine, I can tell you that it was a red Toyota Tacoma, and the driver's side mirror appeared to be covered up with some sort of a barrier, as though it had been shot out. We know that now behind me, it's a completely different scene. All of the police tape that I can see from this vantage point has been taken down. Take a look at this. This is the video of the tow truck that is pulling the Toyota Tacoma out of the parking lot. I can tell you that lots and lots of people were standing around waiting for this particular moment, waiting to get it on camera, waiting to see it from their balconies across the street. And really, that seems to be the last bit that the investigators were working on before taking down the police tape and, for the most part, abandoning this area. They have... From what I can see, I wasn't able to go back and check the parking lot yet, but from what I can see is most folks have left at this point. Again, this was a red Toyota Tacoma, and it seems to be really the focus of a lot of the investigation itself, because that was the vehicle that the tow truck grabbed, that was the vehicle that the tow truck pulled out. We don't know kind of how it is related to the case in terms of whether it is the driver's vehicle, who owns it. However, now that has been taken away from the scene is pretty much wrapped up. However, there are many people still out here and still curious about this entire situation, from what happened at the hospital to what happened here on East Burnside and 146th. Back to you.
Yeah, appreciate your reporting out there, Alma. Thank you. And as Alma was talking about, that red Toyota was in an operation that was dubbed Operation Oregon. Again, this is from NBC News sources, and according to their sources, the individuals in that red Toyota were a 33-year-old man and a 32-year-old woman. Of course, DHS also saying that, as David mentioned earlier, that this was a targeted vehicle stop where the target was a, quote, Venezuelan illegal alien, part of the Tren de Agua prostitution ring.
Yeah, suspected Venezuelan gang members, according to Homeland Security. Not providing more evidence than that, though. They're saying it was a targeted traffic stop. Somebody tried to run over an agent, essentially, and that's when a shot were fired. We don't know from that video. You saw sort of the white paper over the window. It's hard to know what's behind that. So I don't know if there's a bullet hole in the glass, if the window's missing. That's all part of the investigation being led by the FBI. Here again, 2 locations, a shooting outside a medical center, and then 3 miles east where we believe the suspects or the victims, it's hard to know what to call them at this point, the survivors of the shooting, I should say, apparently drove themselves. I want to bring in Evan Watson, though, in the newsroom, because, Evan, you have some brand new information coming in. What did you learn?
Yeah, when it comes to David, Christine, the first responders who showed up to take the 2 people shot to the hospital, what we have just kind of confirmed and got in is the moments after medics got the call through dispatch and emergency response audio. We're able to get a bit more of a picture of those moments immediately following the shooting. Here are medics and first responders explaining the situation that they responded to earlier this afternoon, the 2 shooting victims' initial condition, where they were shot, and how they were doing at that time.
Engine 7 with Medic 314 and Medic 321 on a shooting. It looks like caller saying that he was shot twice by ICE and his wife was shot as well. We have a male who was twice in the arm and his wife who was shot in the chest.
This is Medic 314. We're coming to you from approximately 146th and Burnside with a 33-year-old female who has a GSW to the upper left breast. I don't see an exit wound. Lung sounds are clear.
Hispanic male, English, Spanish speaking only, 2 gunshot wounds.
Different medics and first responders describing what they saw this afternoon, saying the man and the women only spoke Spanish. Over dispatch, they said they took them to 2 separate hospitals. It's not immediately clear why that decision was made. And one medic said the female who was shot was alert and oriented at the time they were transferring her to the hospital for care. That's what we know from the moments after the shooting, before medics reached those hospitals, based on that dispatch audio. Christine, David?
That's really our first glimpse, Evan, of the sense of what these injuries were, with a woman shot in the chest there, you said, 33-year-old woman and 32-year-old or 33-year-old man as well, both in their 30s, taken to the hospital there. Evan Watson in the newsroom.
Yeah, and this really emphasizes that we are learning bit by bit, just a little bit more as the night goes on. More information. Again, we talked about that red Toyota Tacoma. We finally saw images of it from Alma McCarty's reporting. Now we just heard those dispatch calls through Evan Watson's reporting there.
I want to just reiterate again, we do not know the condition of the 2 victims or survivors here in this case. We'll refer to them as survivors, but Homeland Security saying, you know, they're suspected gang members and the shooting was, in their words, justified as an agent firing a shot in self-defense. All unconfirmed as the investigation continues. What's really interesting, Christine, is listening to that news conference by officials, what I think lasted the better part of this hour, is you had officials unified and talking about the uncertainty and the fear they're feeling right now, but also those calls for peace, for calm, for transparency, right? You had Pastor Mark Hennessy there saying, once again, we've heard this before, let us not take the bait, meaning let us not have any violence. It's, you know, peaceful protests, and we heard this, absolutely a God-given right. It's something we expect. We expect people to gather and to raise their voices and to hold vigils and to make their voices heard over what they see or don't see, or their opinions or political positions or policies and all of that, or the president for that matter. But officials, again, drawing that line between peaceful protest and violence.
Absolutely. Yeah, Chief Bob Day asking everyone to stay calm. Mayor Keith Wilson calling on ICE to halt their operations in Portland. That is until a full investigation can be done. And of course, as you said, Governor Tina Kotek saying we should be in peaceful opposition. That's what she said during the press conference, and, quote, not to take the bait.
It's interesting, while the FBI is running the investigation, there were no federal officials at this news conference. It was a state, city, and I should say county sort of affair there, and that's really the missing piece there. The Portland police supporting the FBI. They're careful to draw that line and saying they're not involved in immigration matters, but that's really the missing piece at this stage, other than sort of the reporting we have from NBC News saying this was Venezuelan gang members, and Homeland Security saying it was a agent who fired a defensive shot. There's just not a lot of clarity at this point.
And speaking of all those leaders, we heard from city leaders as well. Our Selene Stevens has been hearing from city leaders all night long, from our city councilors to other folks who have showed up at City Hall in downtown Portland to protest or for a vigil. Selene.
And it is Christine, that's where I'm at right now. And over the last hour or so, the crowd here has really grown, probably around 200 people, maybe more. There's people filling this entire plaza and onto the sidewalk behind the camera here. So a lot of people, the main theme has been people calling to abolish ICE. We had a lot of speakers here, a lot of organizers, and right now city councilors are speaking. We just heard from Canal, right now Avalos is speaking, and they were saying that their thoughts are with the family and with Renee Good, as well as the people who are hospitalized, and even saying those who are detained. And so really that's been the theme of what people have been talking about tonight, with Councilor Canal justify the shooting are not warranted. And I'm not sure if you could hear that, but there is some language, of course. Right now we are at a rally, but again, people are pretty passionate, but it's been a pretty peaceful rally as well. Just a lot of people here. People have their candles and their signs, and people are really just trying to have the message known and sharing their feelings about this incident that happened earlier today. I'm not sure how much we can see. If you push in that way, where Councilor Avalos is speaking on the microphone again, just a lot of people that have come out in the past hour. And this crowd started with about 5 people, and now people are spilling off the sidewalks.
And And it appears that the audio has dropped out a bit in Selene's shot there. Again, she is live in downtown Portland in front of City Hall. You can see behind her a number of people. I think she said a couple hundred potentially there to protest and also for a vigil. And we have heard from our reporters on the ground that there have been a number of people who've come out to each scene to make their voices heard, to protest. Some of them have said peacefully, although it is clear that many people are angry tonight.
I know. Just to recap here, the victims here are suspects in this case because Homeland Security says they're suspects, but they're also victims of a shooting here. A 33-year-old man shot in the arm, according to dispatch audio. A 32-year-old woman shot in the chest, as far as we know. Homeland Security, by the way, saying this was a targeted operation that was going specifically after Venezuelan Tren de Aragua gang members or associates.
Our Devon Haskins is in the newsroom this evening to give us a little background about this gang. Devon.
Yeah, Homeland Security said the two people involved in that, this afternoon shooting were involved with the gang, Tren de Aragua, which translates in English to the Train of Aragua. Over a decade ago, it was started by prisoners inside a Venezuelan prison and then expanded outside the country and eventually making its way to the United States. Gang members have been linked to shootings in several U.S. states from Illinois, Texas, New York, and Florida. It's reported members have been linked to drug smuggling, prostitution, extortion, among other crimes. Now, 2 years ago, under the Biden administration, the gang was listed as a transnational criminal organization. The gang has become a focal point for the Trump administration. A year ago, it was labeled as a foreign terrorist organization. Then in March, the Trump administration ordered the deportation of alleged Tren de Aragua members. In September, 11 members were killed during airstrikes on boats in international waters. The Trump administration had said at the time the boats were headed to the United States and said to be smuggling drugs. Again, the Department of Homeland Security said both of the shooting victims were affiliated with that gang. We're still waiting to learn their names and what their conditions are as they remain in the hospital. Back to you.
Devon Haskins reporting for us in this continuing breaking news situation. Thank you, Devon.
It's been a eventful afternoon, to say the least, with a federal agent shooting two people in East Portland near the Adventist Medical Center there around 2:15 this afternoon. Homeland Security saying that shooting was defensive. They were trying to do a targeted vehicle stop on gang members. Agent fired a defensive shot. The two people drove off in a red Toyota Tacoma. We've been able to police together. One about 3 miles to this area. It's in the Hazelwood neighborhood, about 146th and East Burnside there, where there was a 911 call, we understand, from the man who was injured, describing in Spanish that he had been wounded, the side of his chest, that a woman, potentially his wife, at least according to the dispatch audio, had also been wounded. They were taken to the hospital, separate hospitals, according to reporting from our Evan Watson there. We do not have an update at this point on their condition.
Yeah, we don't have an update on their condition. We have also heard from a number of city and state and county officials this evening in a press conference that we aired live at 6 o'clock with Portland Police. A lot of our city, state, county leaders calling for calm and patience as the investigation continues, because at this point, information is coming out, but at a slow trickle. Mayor Keith Wilson calling on ICE to halt all operations in Portland. That is until a full investigation can be done. Governor Tina Kotek asking for peaceful opposition at this point.
And the FBI leading that investigation, Portland Police providing whatever assistance they can. But the FBI running the show here, we've heard very little from them other than saying that they are investigating what they call an assault on federal officers. We're coming up on the top of the hour here. We're going to take a quick break. Top of the hour, 7 o'clock. We'll be back with you with more on the breaking news. Stay with us. Welcome back. If you are just joining us, we're following breaking news in East Portland, where an agent with U.S. Customs and Border Protection shot 2 people this afternoon. A source telling NBC News the people are a 33-year-old man and 32-year-old woman. They were both wounded, we understand from dispatch audio, potentially with chest injuries, are being treated for those injuries at the hospital, though we do not have any clarity of their condition beyond that. It comes just one day, of course, after an ICE agent shot and killed a woman in Minneapolis.
So in terms of the timeline, shots were fired around 2:15 this afternoon near Adventist Hospital on Southeast Main Street near 102nd. Police say the man who'd been shot then called for help from a different location, Northeast 146th and East Burnside. That's about 3 miles east.
It sounds like they may have driven themselves to that second location. Homeland Security saying the shooting was in self-defense when they were trying to stop suspected Venezuelan gang members. The agents allege the driver, quote, weaponized his vehicle and tried to run over the agents. You're looking at the apartment complex on East Burnside where the pair ended up. Local officials, for their part, are calling for peace, calm, and transparency.
When we have these type of events happen in the city, Portland Police Bureau does offer a level of assistance. This is not any way, shape, or form immigration related on our end. We do not know the facts of this case. We are simply providing that traditional investigative support and perimeter support, which is minimal. But I do want to make it clear that we are out there, but we are not involved in immigration.
These are not statistics. These are human beings. Portland is not a training ground for militarized agents. When the administration talks about using full force, we are seeing what it means on our streets.
We are all shaken and outraged by another terrible, unnecessary, violent event instigated by the reckless agenda of the Trump administration. This time in our own state, in our largest city, coming just one day after the tragedy in Minnesota.
City and state leaders there at a press conference earlier this evening at 6 o'clock. This evening, we have reporters spread out across the city as new information and reaction comes in. Let's start things off with Catherine Cook, though. Again, there are 2 locations here. She is in the first location at Southeast 102nd and Main. Catherine.
Good evening, Christine. It's now been about 4.5 hours since this all began to unfold right here in the parking lot of this medical clinic. What we understand is, as we've been reporting, the 2 people were shot by federal agents. They then managed to drive themselves to 146th and East Burnside, where Portland police came to their aid. They're now both recovering at local hospitals. It has been a steady trickle in of information, a lot of it from federal agents, but none that we can independently confirm. This is a very sensitive story, absolutely following what happened in Minneapolis. A lot of people have questions. They're not taking anything at face value at this time, but it is important to know what we can tell you for a fact, and that is that Portland police responded to help these 2 survivors. What you can hear off to the side here are protesters. We heard from Multnomah County DA Nathan Vasquez about an hour.
We are here from the District Attorney's Office to monitor, to assist, and to make sure that there's a thorough and complete investigation, that evidence is fully preserved, and that we're certainly hoping that we can get all of the facts about what transpired here today, and we will work to update the public as we go forward and get more information.
Who is the head investigator on this right now? I know PPP is not.
Right now, I don't have a lot to say about that as this investigation is starting to unfold, and certainly the different agencies involved are coming together. But we are working closely with Portland Police, and the FBI certainly is here, and we're making sure that that they have all the resources that they need. And of course, our priority and main concern is that there is a thorough and complete investigation, that all facts that can be learned are obtained, and that we can get as much information as possible.
DA Vasquez, what's your message to the community right now?
I think the message to the community is that local officials are very carefully monitoring this, and we're making sure that the interests of this community are well represented, and that this investigation is done in a thorough and complete manner.
All right, the FBI investigating there. That's from Catherine Cook there in Southeast Portland. I just want to apologize for some of the language we heard from a demonstrator or protester there. Obviously not acceptable for us to air that, so we do apologize for that. Uncertainty, fear, anger, just some of the feelings we're hearing from people out there, and that is a reflection of that. We apologize.
Absolutely. And our Catherine Cook was at that first location again near Adventist Hospital. Our Alma McCarty is at the second location. This is near Northeast 146th Avenue and East Burnside. This is the spot where the man called for help. When police arrived, they found a man and a woman shot, according to NBC News source, 33-year-old man and a 32-year-old woman. Alma.
Yeah, Christine, I can tell you right now, basically, this was a very, very active scene with a lot of protesters, a lot of people who live in these apartment complexes and even like on roads nearby coming over here to see what was going on. Obviously, Portland police had this area really roped off for several hours as they were investigating. But tonight, as you can see behind me, pretty much everyone has left. All of the police tape is down and they have left the scene. We were able to walk into the parking lot to kind of get a sense of what was, happening. Earlier in there, this was where the Toyota Tacoma, the red Toyota Tacoma, was parked. That seemed to be really the focus of the investigators' investigation. They pulled that from this parking lot. Lots and lots of people were watching those moments that happened just before 6:30 this evening while that press conference with city leaders was ongoing. That has left the scene. Investigators have left the scene. And really, things are back to pretty much being quiet out here in this area, but we know that there are still like a lot of unanswered questions when it comes to this situation, when it comes to this case. Again, this was the spot where the two victims who were shot by a federal agent ended up. We don't know if they were in an apartment, but I did see blood on the ground at one point, just a small amount, back in that parking lot area, as well as a few emergency supplies, presumably used to as a tourniquet to stop some of the bleeding. So we're not sure how those folks are doing at this point, but we'll be sure to keep you updated. For now, live in Northeast Portland, Alma McCarty, KGW News.
Appreciate your reporting there, Alma. Those two individuals that Alma's describing, they're victims of the shooting, but also, according to Homeland Security's, suspects as well. Portland City councilors and activists right now holding a rally outside City Hall.
Our Selene Stevens is live there now with the latest. Selene, set the stage for us. How many people are there? What's happening?
David and Christine, so this all just wrapped up. There's probably still around 200 people or so here right now. It just wrapped up literally about 2-3 minutes ago. We had multiple speakers. The main message was people chanting abolish ICE. They were here with candles and signs for the vigil and the rally, and people were just, again, chanting to abolish ICE. They were talking about Renee Good, who was shot in Minneapolis yesterday, and of course what happened here today. And then after that, we had a few counselors, many of the counselors who I spoke with a few hours ago, who came out again and spoke and shared their thoughts with the crowd, including Councillor Dunphy, who actually told people to keep showing up and not to play into games, is what he's in his words. He said people should stay peaceful, but that they must continue to show up in times like this. We also heard from Councillor Avalos, as well as Councillor Canal, who also mentioned how his thoughts are with a lot of people, with Renee Good, as well as those who were shot today, and saying the attempts to justify this aren't warranted from DHS. And so again, there was a lot of things said here at this vigil and rally. It took around 30-45 minutes. And again, that crowd grew very, very quickly. It started off with around 5 to 10 people for a while, and then it expanded to what we're seeing now. Again, it's just wrapped up. They do say there will be more calls to action, more events like this coming up in the days to come, following what we saw again earlier today. City Hall has just been the site of multiple protests clearly throughout the day. There was a small one at 2 p.m. That's why I was originally here earlier today. And then now here we are at a much larger presentation. But again, I spoke with Councillor Dunphy right after, soon after we learned the news about the federal agent shooting, and take a listen to what he had to tell me.
I mean, we started the day raw as it was. The city of Portland was already grieving for our friends in Minneapolis, and we know that the federal government has been trying to escalate things here in the city of Portland. And two days in a row, federal officers shooting people who are trying to get away from unlawful detention. This is clearly a pattern that is starting to emerge, and that the federal government is obviously trying to escalate across the nation.
And just to confirm, is it safe to say that that emergency meeting that was referenced earlier when the protesters were here, was this that incident that you guys had to break for?
Yeah, absolutely. We were in the middle of voting for our new council president, in which we had to emergency recess because that had just happened and we just learned about it. So we were rushed into a hearing or a briefing on it.
All right, and just sort of last thing, I guess, I know you have a lot to do, but again, this is something we just saw happen yesterday, and now we're seeing it here with 2 people involved. I mean, what do you have to say to Portlanders? There were people here already rallying regarding the ICE facility, and now this has happened. So what's your message to Portlanders tonight?
Portlanders are going to show up, and we're going to protest, and we're going to let our voices be known that this is not the kind of acceptable behavior from the federal government that Portlanders expect. This is tyranny. This is jackbooted thugs in our community masked up and killing our neighbors, or trying to kill our neighbors. I expect Portlanders to use their voices, to be able to peacefully come out and demonstrate that this is not the community that we are, and that this is not what we expect from our federal government, and to expect better, to demand better.
So this was a peaceful vigil and rally. Again, people just showed up with their with their candles and their signs. And in fact, we even have the Portland frog out here. You can't really see him, but we do have somebody here in an inflatable frog costume. So people came out and they showed out. And again, lots of things were said by multiple people, multiple speakers throughout the day. But overall, this has just been a developing story, clearly. And I'm going to go ahead and send it back to you guys at the desk as people are starting to leave City Hall.
Selene Stevens reporting live for us. Appreciate your continued reporting downtown, Selene. Thank you.
I just want to draw a line between what the council there is saying or alluding to and what the official federal line is here. Homeland Security saying this was a targeted operation that was going after Venezuelan Tren de Aragua gang members or associates. They say the 2 people were associated or suspected to be associated with that gang. It translates to Train of Aragua. It's reported members have been linked to drug smuggling, prostitution, extortion, among other crimes.
Right. So 2 years ago, under the Biden administration, the gang was listed as a transnational criminal organization. Over a decade ago, it was started by prisoners inside a Venezuelan prison and then expanded outside the country, and then it made its way to the United States. Gang members have been linked to crimes in several U.S. states.
The gang has become a focal point for the Trump administration. A year ago, it was labeled as a foreign terrorist organization. Then in March, you remember this, Trump administration ordered the deportation of alleged Tren de Aragua members. In September, 11 members were killed during airstrikes on boats in international waters. The administration saying this boat was headed to the U.S. and smuggling drugs. Again, Homeland Security saying both of those shot were affiliated with that gang, and saying the agent here feared for his life and fired a defensive shot.
Right.
Tonight, we're also learning more about the immediate response to the shooting as first responders showed up to take those 2 people to the hospital.
Through dispatch and emergency response audio, we're able to get a bit of a clearer picture of the moments immediately following the shooting. Here are medics and first responders explaining the situation that they're responding to. The 2 shooting victims, or suspects as DHS would call them.
Both at this point.
Yes. Their initial conditions, where they were shot, and also how they were doing at that time.
Engine 7 with Medic 314 and Medic 321 on a shooting. It looks like caller saying that he was shot twice by ICE and his wife was shot as well. We have a male who was twice in the arm and his wife who was shot in the chest.
This is Medic 314. We're coming to you from approximately 146th and Burnside with a 33-year-old female who has a GSW to the upper left breast. I don't see an exit wound. Lung sounds are clear.
Hispanic male, English, Spanish speaking only, 2 gunshot wounds.
It's tough to listen to that in real time, right? Because we're talking about people who, no matter what the circumstances, have suffered real injuries, potentially life-changing injuries.
Right, and according to NBC News sources, a 32-year-old woman who, according to that audio, was apparently shot in the chest. Also, NBC News sources saying a 33-year-old man involved here, a couple shots potentially to the arm. So multiple medics said the man and woman only spoke Spanish. Over dispatch, they said they took them to 2 separate hospitals.
It's not immediately clear why that decision was made. One medic said the female who was shot was on alert and oriented. That's, of course, what we know from the moments after the shooting. We're still working to get an update on their condition.
Okay, we're going to be taking a quick break, but our coverage of this breaking news situation will continue. We'll also check in on your weather impact forecast. Stay with us.
The KGW Plus TV app, streaming 24/7. Local news from the team you trust on your time. Track how the weather will impact your day.
Certainly becoming increasingly hazardous.
Extended, continuous coverage of breaking news live from the scene.
That snowpack is still heavy.
Go deeper with in-depth interviews and exclusive reporting. All the local news you need, live or on demand. KGW Plus. Download on your TV and watch for free.
We have now issued a weather impact alert.
We could expect conditions in some parts of our area to change drastically pretty soon, right?
And very quickly, yeah.
This is significant rainfall coming our way.
You'll definitely want to be extra cautious.
Certainly becoming increasingly hazardous.
We've got the potential for some tree limbs or even trees or power lines to come down.
Of course, when you hear thunder, it's always best to take cover.
On Weather Impact Alert Days, stream extended coverage on KGW Plus.
We want to return to our breaking news now in East Portland, where an agent with U.S. Customs and Border Protection shot two people this afternoon. The FBI says police say a man and a woman, both in their 30s, were hit and wounded. Authorities have not been able to confirm their conditions, both taken to the hospital. One Customs and Border Protection agent, as far as we can tell from Homeland Security and NBC News reporting, involved in the shooting. Of course, this comes just one day after an ICE agent shot and killed a woman in Minneapolis.
And here's a timeline. Shots were fired around 2:15 this afternoon near Adventist Hospital on Southeast Main Street near 102nd. Police say a man who had been shot then called for help from a second location. That would be northeast 146th and East Burnside. When police arrived, they found a man and a woman shot. An NBC News source has said it was a 33-year-old man, a 32-year-old woman. We also have a statement from the Department of Homeland Security. Assistant Secretary Tricia McLaughlin said U.S. Border Protection agents were doing a targeted vehicle stop this afternoon. She added, quote, "The passenger of the vehicle and target is a Venezuelan illegal alien affiliated with the transnational Tren de Agua prostitution ring and involved in a recent shooting in Portland." She continued, the vehicle driver is believed to be a member of the vicious Venezuelan gang, Tren de Agua. When agents identified themselves to the vehicle occupants, the driver weaponized his vehicle and attempted to run over the law enforcement agents. Fearing for his life and safety, an agent fired a defensive shot. The driver drove off with the passenger, fleeing the scene.
Important to note again, the FBI leading the investigation. We just got a briefing from state and local officials in downtown Portland. I want to bring in John Adams live with more on that. John?
Yeah, David and Christine, we just heard from Portland Police Chief Bob Day, Mayor Keith Wilson, Governor Tina Kotek, amongst other local elected and faith leaders here locally. And I kind of want to break down some of the main points of what they talked about. Chief Bob Day reiterated that the FBI is, of course, taking the lead on this investigation. So Portland Police has been in contact with federal agents, but as of right now, they slow to get specific details about the case. Chief Bob Day said that I asked him specifically, when we saw in Minnesota surveillance video, cell phone video readily available of the incident that took place. I asked Chief Day, do you know of any surveillance video available of this specific incident that saw what took place? And he told me that as of right now, no, they were not aware of that video existing at this time. There may be, they are not aware of it right now. Another thing that I thought pretty interesting about the press conference, Governor Tina Kotek, of course, we have heard in the past that she has had conversations with members of the Trump administration, with President Trump Trump himself. But someone asked the question, have you been in contact with the administration tonight? The governor said this is a fast-moving situation. She, as of right now, has not talked to anyone with the administration, including President Trump. So as of right now, the governor here has not been in contact with the Trump administration. One of the other individuals that spoke tonight, Senate Majority Leader Casey Jama, an immigrant himself, the Senate Majority Leader in Oregon. Here's what he had to say.
I have been in this country about 28 years and a former refugee. I have never thought I will see this moment in the United States of America. This is a challenging time for us. My colleagues and I are working together to ensure that we address this issue at the state legislative level. We want to do as best as we can to protect the Oregonians who are fearful, who are scared, who are facing persecution.
Senator Jama went on to say lawmakers are working on several bills to help protect Oregonians, and we heard a lot of that talk tonight as well. Also, local leaders calling on Oregonians to protest peacefully if they choose to do so. We did also hear from Portland Police. We don't expect as of right now to receive another briefing this evening, but they are going to let us know if they do have more information that they can fill us in on. In downtown Portland, John Adams, KGW News, David Christine, I'm going to toss it back to you.
I appreciate that. Officials describing things like uncertainty, fear, sadness, and outrage. A lot of people feeling variations of those tonight. Stay with KGW, of course, for continuing coverage of that breaking news. Up next, we're going to check in with Chief Meteorologist Matt Safino on your weekend forecast.
But we'll also check in with our Orlando Sanchez, who is in Atlanta ahead of the big Ducks game in the Peach Bowl. Stay with us.
The KGW Plus TV app, streaming 24/7. Local news from the team you trust on your time. Track how the weather will impact your day.
Certainly becoming increasingly hazardous.
Extended, continuous coverage of breaking news live from the scene.
That snowpack is still heavy.
Go deeper with in-depth interviews and exclusive reporting. All the local news you need, live or on demand. KGW Plus. Download on your TV and watch for free. The KGW Plus TV app, streaming 24/7. Local news from the team you trust. Track how the weather will impact your day. Breaking news live from the scene. All the local news you need. KGW Plus. Download on your TV and watch for free. On Weather Impact Alert Days, stay informed, prepared, and connected with KGW and KGW Plus. Coverage that alerts you to what's coming and how it will impact you. Watch extended weather coverage on KGW Plus.
Welcome back, everybody. Hope you had a chance to see some sunshine today. If not, here's a time lapse of it for you from our Skycam out in Washington County. It turned into a pretty nice afternoon, but up in the Cascades, yes, this is live and the snow is still flying. And the snowfall totals have now gotten up to 35 inches at Timberline, still 32 at Meadows, Ski Bowl 21 inches, and they're finally going to open for the season at Ski Bowl tomorrow. So yes, all the lifts are spinning. A lot more terrain is open at all the ski areas here in the Northwest. It is 44 in Portland right now. A little bit of a breeze, but not too bad, and it remains cloudy, and that'll keep us from getting as cold as we did last night when some places dropped as low as 29. That said, there still could be some areas of frost, but look, the showers that are over us right now, these are kind of the last gasp showers. These will be winding down and tapering off tonight, and once they end, we're pretty much done with rainfall with one exception for like a week. It's going to be a long dry spell, again, with that one exception. Here are the rainfall totals from today. Not very heavy. 500s in Troutdale, 200s in Portland, 1300s at Tillamook. That's about it. So things have settled down quite a bit, and these are the last showers. Now, offshore, you see the clouds out here. So there's a lot of high clouds going to be moving on through, and eventually we'll catch just a piece of this weather system in the Gulf of Alaska that'll drift on in Saturday night and Sunday and bring us a few showers at the coast. But before that happens, we're not going to be seeing much wind or much turnover in our air mass. So there's an air stagnation advisory up for deteriorating air quality beginning tomorrow and lasting through the weekend. So those of you with respiratory issues, take note of that. Okay, here's what it looks like on Futurecast. The rain we have tonight, the showers that are left over, die away. And then as we go into Saturday night and Sunday morning, you see a little bit of rain at the coast. The coast may end up getting some decent rainfall, but the valley's hardly anything. And then after that system passes through, wow, what a forecast change in the pattern here as we go to offshore winds and really warm temperatures, like mid to upper 50s, 70 in western Oregon, maybe the coast probably hit 60. So it's going to be a remarkable turnaround from the last couple of days. And again, after that Sunday morning shower activity, there's nothing coming our way in terms of precipitation for quite a while, like right on through next week and potentially even through the following weekend. So get ready for dry January to kick into high gear. 47 was our high today. It's exactly average for the state. Couple 50s on the coast, but everybody else topped out in the 30s and 40s. And again, we're at 44 right now. Freezing levels about to go up tomorrow, but don't worry, we will preserve our new snowpack. It's not going to go away even with the dry weather. Won't get rained on in the sun angle in January. It's just too low to really lose a lot of it, so we're in good shape. Mostly cloudy north, partly sunny on the central and southern Oregon coast. As you see, nicer weather there. For Portland, showers ending tonight, clouds and then some sun tomorrow with a high of 50. We dip a little bit on Saturday, back to 50 on Sunday with those light showers. Then look, 54 Monday, 57 on Tuesday, and 55s for Wednesday and Thursday. So I don't want to throw the word spring around, but boy, it's going to be really quite pleasant next week.
Yes, very excited for those temperatures and the sunshine. Thank you, Matt.
You bet.
Okay, the wait is almost over. Ducks fans, both teams are on the ground in Atlanta, and kickoff is less than 24 hours away.
Very exciting. Orlando Sanchez continues our coverage from Atlanta.
It's the final countdown, just one more sleep until kickoff to the Peach Bowl. The Oregon Ducks and Indiana Hoosiers holding one final press conference ahead of tomorrow's semifinal matchup.
This game is going to be what college football is about.
It's the Ducks and Hoosiers in the Final Four.
Two teams that are really complete. They play great on offense, defense, and special teams. They don't have a weakness.
Undefeated Indiana is the top-ranked team in the land, led by Heisman Trophy winning quarterback Fernando Mendoza. The Hoosiers sport a top-5 offense and defense, the only team to beat Oregon this season.
I know I said it's hard to beat a great team twice. Well, it's hard to beat a great team, period.
The Ducks lost the turnover battle and Dante Moore was sacked 6 times in that first meeting back in October. No extra motivation necessary.
If you can't get up for an opportunity to play Indiana, especially when they had the better half of us last time, then shame on us.
Whether it's the transfer portal or injuries, the Ducks are down a dozen players, including freshman running back Jordan Davison, who led Oregon in rushing touchdowns.
We've talked about it all year, strength in numbers, and the strength in football is the team. It's not one individual, and I truly believe that our coaches and our staff and our players have prepared really hard all year to be ready for their opportunities.
Heading into one of the Ducks' biggest games in years, Dan Lanning taking a moment of appreciation.
I just kind of joke with our boys. I said, if your dad was a dentist, you wouldn't be doing this right now, and it could have gone a lot of different other ways too. I was really lucky to be a part of a lot of winning teams. So probably more than anything, just gratitude that I get to be a part of something like this.
It's about to go down. The Peach Bowl, 4:30 p.m. Pacific time kickoff right here in Atlanta at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Reporting from Atlanta, Orlando Sanchez, KGW Sports.
Okay, that is all the time we have tonight. We'll continue to follow the breaking news of the Border Protection agent shooting 2 people in Portland.
Again, those 2 people were wounded, both in their 30s, a man and her woman. We're working to figure out their condition, both in the hospital. Homeland Security saying they were suspected gang members and the agent here shot in self-defense when they tried to weaponize their vehicle, drive over or into someone.
We'll have updates as they come out on KGW.com. We'll be back on air on KGW Plus tonight at 11, if not before, with new information.